Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win. Go to Ocean.
The beard, baby. Welcome in. What an epic performance. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Rob Ellis, Derek Gunn, hanging with you on this Tuesday. We may be getting periodical check-ins from Barrett Brooks. He's on the golf course, the Brian Dawkins golf outing. But we'll see. We'll see about that. But what wasn't, there's no question about Derek, was last night. And what James Harden was able to do, the bearded one, last night.
Fear the beard.
Yes.
Fear the beard.
Yeah.
That obviously that extended time off did wonders for that man because he put that team on his back. When he launched that final shot, and I'm thinking, what's his name was defending him? I'm thinking Al Horford. Now, obviously, Horford was worried about him making that move and shaking him. But Horford went up, I'm thinking it impeded his shot. Oh, no, man. That thing was a bullseye. Equaling his all-time best playoff record performance. What else could you ask for this team? I mean, geez. I mean, we said Maxey needs to step up. He did. We said Tobias needs to give us 18, 20. He did. Melton. I mean, what can you say? It was a total team effort.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I mean, when you're on the road against a team that's owned you, that is a higher seed, without the guy who's, in my opinion, going to be named MVP today, when you have all of those things working against you, and by the way, the other team shoots 80% in the first quarter, 74% in the first half.
Yes.
And you still win the game. It tells you a lot about the mental fortitude of that team, aka the balls of that team. And that was a ballsy win for the Sixers last night.
The resiliency. They could have very easily lost that game, when Boston went on that slight run in the third. They could have lost that game there. Oh, no. They made great defensive stops. They hit their free throws. And hold up. Boston plays an entire game and they only had 10 fouls called on them. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
In a physical game like that, we know how physical the playoffs are. They only had 10 fouls called on them the whole game?
Yep.
Are you kidding me?
Yep. Boston home cooking. It's been alive and well since the 60s, and it's still there now in 2023. Yeah. It was unbelievable, Derek. To me, my first reaction, first of all, it was like a layup line for Boston in the first quarter, right?
My goodness.
It was unbelievable. They were getting anything they wanted, backdoor cuts, layups. I mean, just clean looks, easy looks, you name it. I mean, that's the way the game went. But what stood out to me was I'm looking at this thing at halftime and I'm saying to myself, okay, it's been pretty ugly, but they're down 3.
Yes.
It feels like it should have been a 30-point game.
Absolutely.
And that's a great sign. It was a great sign for what was to come in the second half. And there were just so many big plays in the game, man. I mean, just monstrous sequences that, when Maxey drives and you're not sure if the call's a block or a charge, and he's got his 5th foul, and they review it, and both officials have differing calls on it, and they call it a defensive foul. It's an N1. Maxey doesn't foul out. That's huge. And obviously the defensive play where the shot clock's running down and they throw it away with a half second left, and Maxey catches it. If it's a second later, it's a shot clock violation and not the easy bucket thing. There were just so many of those.
When Boston has scored like 52, 54 points in the paint midway through the third, I said, okay, they did exactly what we expected them to. No Embiid to stand there to block their path. They own the paint. Sixers had nobody to answer them driving the paint. And they still didn't buckle.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Maxey got his 5th foul, I forgot who he let. Somebody drove to the bucket. And
Smart,
he went
I think.
Smart, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? They're going to attack Maxey now the rest of the game. And they didn't.
Yeah.
You're right. There was so many ebbs and flows to this game, so many sequences where the Eagles had built-in excuse to lose this game.
Yeah.
They'd have built it. And they said, no. The Bears said, no, that's not how we're approaching it here. So now they've won on the road without the eventual MVP. The psychological warfare now is even. It's even balanced because Boston made mistakes. I didn't see them making. I didn't think they were making this game. They were very lackadaisical. So 16 turnovers in a game. Sixers had what, single-digit turnovers in a game?
Sixers had 6 for the entire game.
6 in the whole game.
Boston had 16.
16.
Yep.
Boston did a lot of un-Boston-like things. And thank you, Boston, for doing that. But what a dark day. What a dark day in the city of Boston. A dark week. The Bruins losing a 3-1 series lead. Everybody on the planet thought the Celtics were going to come out and take it to the Sixers without Embiid. Oh, no.
Well, I just, like, to me,
game.
They're second to the Cowboys in sports hate. There's no question. So anything bad that happens to Boston is a beautiful thing, especially the Celtics. I love it. But yeah, I mean, and the one other thing that I kept mentioning, and when I would say it, people would kind of laugh at me because I've been so critical of him. But Doc Rivers coached circles around Joe Mazzulla. I mean, he absolutely took him to school. So Doc makes the adjustment to go to zone, which was huge in that sequence because Boston was killing them offensively. They go to the zone and Boston was confused. And then Mazzulla decides, like to me, Derek, in clutch situations in that game last night, I'm letting anybody else beat me but Harden.
That's exactly right.
I'm doubling Harden.
That's right.
He leaves Horford singled up with him on that last sequence.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
Run 2 bodies at him and let anybody else beat you.
Anybody else takes that shot but Harden. No question about it. But you know what? The playoff basketball world, it's out of kilter. Bucks go down in the first round. Miami's still alive. Golden State wins 2 games on the road. The Lakers all of a sudden are playing like a team. The basketball world is out of sync, Rob. Yeah. It's all over the place. Nothing makes sense right now.
You're right. It's a really weird year in the playoffs. I mean, just look at the fact that the Knicks and the Heat are still alive, on the other side of the bracket in the East. You're right. I mean, the Lakers, a team that couldn't get out of their own way the whole year. And now all of a sudden they're feeling it. Golden State, who couldn't win on the road, wins 2 on the road, including the clincher
by big margin.
It's a weird year, and weird stuff's happening, which is great. Take advantage of it, Sixers.
It is, man. You know what? Whatever's going on right now, you're right. The Sixers are right in the thick of it. And you know what? Somebody asked me after the game, and I said, there's no way Embiid steps on the court for game 2. There's no need to. You got the split. You want it. At the very worst, you got a split.
What a fascinating discussion this is now, because by all accounts, he was going to try and give it a go on game 2, and you're assuming Sixers lose game 1, and all right, let's go, Joel. Drag that leg out there, man. And now all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute. You could buy him like until Saturday, if that's the case, which gets you.
Yes.
It's 17 days. I think it was 17 days, something like that. Anyway, but and especially we get the report last night that it's a grade 2 sprain, which means there's some kind of tear in there.
Yep. Some kind of tear. Yes. We don't need him. We don't need Embiid to come out and give us his best Willis Reed performance right now. We don't need that.
Yeah.
After what they did last night, buy him as much time as you can.
Yeah. It's such a weird dynamic because the one party is saying, go for the kill. You get up 2-0 coming out of Boston. There's that piece of it. And then the other piece is like, all right, you can really buy this guy more time. What's up, Mama Brooks? Good to see you checking in as always. Good morning. Good afternoon. But yeah, I mean, it's a great debate that we're going to have over the course of today and tomorrow. By the way, Amy Fadul is going to be joining us at 1:00. Amy, they're still doing pre and post game, even though the games are on national TV, TNT last night. Amy and Jim Lynham and Mark Jackson, who joins us quite a bit as well. So Amy's going to join us at 1, and then at 12:30, we're going to be having Zach Berman from The Athletic. Can't wait to talk to Zach about the Eagles draft. But yeah, that was Derek. That's why I hate to use cliches here, but it is why you play them. It's why you watch. It's why you tune in when you think it's a foregone. They were 10-point favorites, underdogs when that thing went off last night. 10.
No question about it. See, that's why I don't bet, Rob. I'll be broke. See, I don't trust sequences anymore. I don't trust anything anymore in the world of sports, man. You look at sports across the board in recent, everything's unpredictable. You can't trust anything. I'm not just giving my money away to anybody. You know,
Yeah, you're right.
but you can. What James Harden did. The only thing I didn't like, you see the outfit James Harden had on after the game.
The Cookie Monster. Yeah.
Did you see the Cookie Monster outfit? That's when you have too much money. You don't know how to spend your money.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, I understand it's cold in Boston. I get that. But did you have to come out looking like Blue's Clues? Really?
He couldn't even walk. Like, there were such big bell bottoms that, like, he couldn't even really walk in them. Like, I was watching him going into before the game, going into the locker room. I'm like, what is going on here, man?
Oh my goodness.
And I'm sure these guys get paid for this. You're not doing it for nothing, I'm assuming. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But it was like, what the heck is going on here, man? But
dude,
hey, dress however you want if you play like that.
Really. Wear the same outfit every night if you have to. But we've seen Harden wear some weird stuff all season. So, you know what? This is par for the course.
It is. It is.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say props to Melton, who was spectacular. I thought Melton was 5 of 6 from 3.
Yes.
There were just a lot of guys. Harden was obviously the headliner, but the supporting cast did a really good job last night.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Everybody stepped up. You know, in the score in the box score shows, you know, Tucker didn't score any points. He didn't even take a shot.
Mm-hmm.
But look what he did on boards, defense, helping out, boxing out, getting physical when he had to. You know, that's why they brought him here. They didn't bring him here for his scoring.
Yeah.
They brought him here for the playoffs, for his defensive prowess, to make things happen, to rattle the opposition. He did exactly that last night to Boston.
You're dead on. You're dead on. And that's the thing. You have to watch him play to feel the impact. You can't just look at the box score. It's the screens that he sets. It's he might box a guy out and not get the rebound, but it allows his teammate to get the rebound.
Yep,
he's on the floor.
Absolutely.
The other thing he did last night was early when the Celtics were getting anything they wanted underneath, you know, he had a talk with Paul Reed and was like, dude, you got to tighten up here. We need more from you. And to Paul Reed's credit, Paul Reed hits 2 money free throws late, Gunner. I mean,
he didn't touch the rim.
Whoo, he stepped up there and it was bang, bang. I mean, not even, you're right. It was, whoa, okay. You knew it was a special night. It really was.
The only well, it can't be a negative, and it was an accident, was when Tucker swung his arm and caught Tatum below the equator. I'm like, oh, I felt that when they showed the replay. I'm like, oh.
But you know what he was reacting? He was mad at one of his teammates for not getting back, and he was saying like, let's go, like let's he's extend it, and man, it clipped Tatum right where you don't want to be clipped.
And of course, they got a little heated at that moment, but you know what? That's the playoffs, and I expect to see it's going to get even more heated before this series is over.
Yeah, and I think what it does, because Boston had owned them because of their struggles in the second round, they hadn't won a game 1 of a round 2, Derek, since the 80s. I think what it does is it just gives you the sense that, look, these guys are not impossible to beat. This is we're right in this series. You just got to believe and do what you did the other night or last night. You just got to do what we did last night, and anything can happen in this thing. And eventually, at some point, we're getting the big guy back too. So I think there's a lot of reason for optimism, and not the least of which is your coach is 10 steps ahead of their coach too.
Absolutely. Wait.
I said it.
Doc Rivers is 10 steps ahead of another coach.
I'm now.
And I agree with you 100%. I agree with you.
I'm now praising Doc Rivers and Nick Castellanos. This is like alert.
It's bizarro world, man.
I know. Well, strange things are happening right now, so you got to react. But credit where credit's due. I thought that the game plan was better. I thought the adjustments were better. I thought that they did enough to kind of junk it up defensively without Joel out there with the zones and the matchup zones and switching and a lot of the other stuff that they were doing. It was awesome. It was fun. It was, that's why you watched sports too. You have fun watching it. And that game was exciting, thrilling.
Yes. Even if you weren't a fan.
Yeah.
Of either team.
Ajita.
It was a fun game to watch. Yeah. And dude, I hope the whole series is like that. I mean, I know Sixers fans that'll probably put a lot of them on a pacemaker watching games like this. I hope every game is like this down to the wire. You know, because what a game. What a game. And I expect this to be, I won't go so far as to say an old school Eastern Conference series like we grew up watching in the 80s and stuff. But this is going to be a very good the tension has now increased twofold because Boston got caught napping.
Yep.
So let's see how you respond on your floor tomorrow night. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Like I said, Amy's joining us at 1, Z-Berm coming up in a little bit. So a couple other odds and ends here, Derek. We're probably going to hear tonight that it's Joel Embiid. We are going to hear one way or the other. Someone's winning the MVP tonight of the NBA. Most likely going to be Joel Embiid, which, look, is a great accomplishment. And we can downplay it and the big deal, go win a championship and all that. You're the MVP of your league at the highest of your professions. I'm sorry, man. Like you need to take a moment and just recognize that. And he probably should have been it last year. So congratulations if he ends up winning it. It looks like he's going.
If he does not win it this year, you should never have an MVP voting again. You never should. It's incredible how he got overlooked last year, and that we're even discussing the possibility of two other people who could possibly supplant him to get it this year. But because of what we've seen in recent years, anything is possible, but there's no doubt, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he should win it this year. Hands down, for what he did on both ends of the court all season long. And you can't use the fact that the other two players played X amount of games more so than he did, like you've used in the past, because they were all right there neck and neck, 67, 68 games. They were all right there. So it comes down to overall performance, and nobody outperformed this man night in and night out when he was on the floor.
Yep. Well said. Well said. All right. Now, the other big news is Bryce Harper saw the doctor yesterday. The doctor signed off. He's good to go. The last hurdle was clearing him to be able to slide head first. The doctor said, you're good to slide head first. He will be in the lineup tonight against the Dodgers. He'll be DHing. He still has to get another clearance to play first base. That'll be the final hurdle, at least for this year. But the fact that this guy 160 days removed, Derek, from Tommy John, May 2nd is playing.
It's ridiculous.
Crazy. We were talking about July 25th, somewhere in that range. And to be here at May 2nd is flat out nuts, and a testament to the work that this dude put in to get
Too bad he wasn't in the lineup last night. They could have used him last night. Jeez.
Yeah, right.
Oh my goodness. Jeez. Hey, but that happens in baseball. You get hit and you hit. You get hit, you get, But the fact that we're talking about this man 160 days removed, resuming his career after having the type of surgery he had, that dude is the bionic man. He's a modern day $6 million man.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. That's unheard of. And even if he doesn't play the field for a while, because obviously swinging a bat is a lot different than trying to throw a ball with velocity behind it. You don't want to rush that too much. But to have his bat back in that lineup, especially with a few guys struggling, like Trey Turner now, you put him back in there as a buffer, wherever you put him. Third, fourth, fifth, I don't care where you put him. His bat back in the lineup is extra juice for an offense that has been inconsistent at best.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, even if it takes him, and it's going to take him a little while, let's face it, but it took him a little while when he came back from the broken thumb.
Yep.
Good. Let's start the clock now on him getting, adjusted. And hopefully by the time June rolls, he's in mid-season form. So that's going to be the big thing as far as that goes. I wanted to throw this past you too. It's not local, but it's national. I thought this was really interesting. According to Shams Charania, who does unbelievable work as an insider for the Athletic and Stadium and FanDuel and all that stuff. So he's reporting the Memphis Grizzlies have informed pending free agent Dylan Brooks he will not be brought back under any circumstances. Think about the wording of that. Not just, hey, we're going in a different direction, or play the field a little bit and we'll see what happens. Basically, that tells you not only was he disliked by opponents, either he was really disliked by his teammates or his shenanigans, AKA all the crappy polls, cheap shots and the talking to LeBron and all that. They've just had it as an organization, but they have basically said, dude, you're out. We don't want you back. Good riddance. Don't let the door hit you, where the good Lord split you.
Obviously, a front office was beyond frustrated with him. But before you word a statement like that, you have to talk to your leadership in that locker room, whoever it may be. And I would imagine some of the leadership probably say, you know what, we got to move in a different direction because he's holding us back. I'm paraphrasing it, but obviously, because for an ownership, you have to think, we don't want to disrespect the culture we have in this locker room. We don't want to exclude them from a decision like this. Let us just get some feedback to see what they think. and probably got positive feedback thinking along the same lines they were thinking, which said, you know what? Okay, we're good. We're good now. I can't remember in any sport a statement worded like that. Usually organizations are very careful not to offend or disrespect anybody when they part ways with someone. You always leave it on a positive note. But for them to say that under no circumstances will you come back through this door, wow. I mean,
that's a statement. That's an also like kicking you out the door kind of thing. That's not a thanks for the contributions. Sometimes they'll throw the little tribute video. Hey, great, love you, whatever.
Yep.
This was not that.
Hey, we appreciate your contributions to the organization.
Yeah.
This is where you not only close the door, you kick the shut, you put caulk around the door, and then you add a Gorilla Glue as well to make sure you understand you don't have any access to this facility. Thank you very much. Good luck to you in future endeavors. Now, somebody will pick them up. And obviously, they'll say, hey, look, man, if you come here, can we count on you to do this and not what you did in Memphis? Somebody's going to pick him up because he's a good ball player. He's a physical player. He does have a lot of attributes that can help a lot of teams. Right. But one team just said, you know what? We bit our tongue on this. You embarrassed our organization. You hurt us more than you helped us. Goodbye, good riddance.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong statement, man, for sure, from any kind of organization. Either that, you just lay low and you tell him and his representatives, hey, you could, we're not going to be bringing you back. Go do your thing. Good luck to you. But to have it leak out to somebody like Shams, that's coming from the organization to stick it to Dylan Brooks. So see that one today. I'm like, whoa, okay, it's like that. All right, man. Yeah, that explains some
now
things.
You know what? Now we sit back. We sit back now and wait because Dylan Brooks being Dylan Brooks and watching his antics this season, I would imagine somewhere in the immediate future there's going to be a rebuttal on his part. And I can't wait to hear the rebuttal on his part in terms of him parting ways with the organization. It's coming. You just know it's going to come.
You're right. Like, he strikes me as a guy who can't help himself. He's not taking any high roads. He's going to just detonate. He's a detonator, Derek. So yeah, that would not surprise me in the least. That's for sure. I wanted to throw this one past you, and we're gonna have Zach Berman coming up at the bottom of the hour. Amy Fadul to talk more Sixers at the top of the hour. But Super Bowl 57, Derek, was the most watched telecast ever. Not just a Super Bowl, ever. 115.1 million viewers across all platforms, which is 2 million more than Nielsen's previous announcement. There were some numbers issues. Nielsen didn't start counting the out-of-home streaming estimates until 21. Right. So it's unclear whether the Super Bowl telecast in 15 or 17 would have surpassed. The Eagles were 17, into 18 when the Super Bowl occurred. But anyway, this is the most. It was 113 million. Had previously announced that's what it was, but it's actually 115.1.
You know what? And when you think about the combatants in the Super Bowl, you have the Pied Piper of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. Everybody loves to watch Patrick Mahomes. Then you had this up and coming Jalen Hurts. First time ever you had two African-American quarterbacks starting in the Super Bowl. Two teams that had identical records going into that game. Two teams that are electric.
Andy Reid against his old team. Right?
Yes. You had the storylines were endless in this game. You had a coach who, like his predecessor, gets to the Super Bowl in his second year with the organization. The storylines were through the roof with this game. And I'm not surprised one bit. I didn't know the numbers would be that high, but I'm not surprised one bit that the national intrigue, even people that weren't fans of the two teams, were fans of a lot of the players, and obviously the execution that these teams went through all season long to get to that point. And, they put on a show. Minus playing on an ice skating rink. They put on a show. Let's face it. 38-35 game, 73 points in the Super Bowl. What more could you ask? Coming down to the last drive of the game, what more could you ask for a Super Bowl?
Yeah, you're right. If you didn't have a rooting interest and you were just a football fan, that game had everything you wanted. It was big plays, back and forth kind of game, tight down to the wire. Yeah, you're right. It had it all. It had controversy. Everybody slipping all over the place. And again,
pass interference call at the
pass
end.
Interference calls. You're right. There was a lot going on, but obviously that's why when people say all the time, well, why do they pay that much for these rights fees? Why do they do this? Why do they do that? Well, here's why. I mean, can you imagine what they charged per commercial for a 30-second, a 60-second, a 15-second, whatever? The money that they recoup from this is just pure insanity. It's how Joe Buck and Aikman get paid what they get paid for Monday night. There's just so much going on. It's amazing. It really is. But 115 points. Imagine being one of the broadcasters. You were Kevin Burkhardt or Greg Olson. Like, wow, that many people were watching and listening to me. That's pretty freaky.
Yeah.
Actually.
Isn't that something?
Whoa.
Isn't that something?
Man.
And where does it go from here? The NFL, and I've said this so many times, the NFL is second to none in terms of marketing strategy, creativity, getting ahead of the streaming stuff to expand an audience now. So we hear stories all the time in recent years. More and more people are getting away from cable. What does the NFL do? Streaming. Hey, we got to get on this streaming thing. All of a sudden we're going, wait a minute, you're putting NFL games on Prime? Well, right. The NFL knows, like we know, people are going to watch football. Period.
Yep.
Period. Because unlike the other three big sports, it's once a week. People get in a feeding frenzy, and they love their football. And so now you have it on Sunday, Monday, Thursday. So you give them a taste all week long. Even a bad game, think about how many millions of people are talking about it the next day. A bad 100%. Game. It was a bad game, but you watched, didn't you? Why?
Yep.
Because we're football junkies. We can't get enough.
Yeah, like one thing when we were looking at, you remember how bad the Thursday night cards were, right? It was terrible. They were two bad teams a lot. It was a lot of garbage. But where I give us credit, I'm not like patting ourselves on the back. A lot of people are like, I'm not watching. Like you and Barrett are like, we're addicts. We're watching it. I don't care how bad it is. We're going to watch it. We're going to talk about it tomorrow, whatever. But that's the reality. As much as people complain, they still watch, even with the bad matchups.
And even if they don't watch the entire game, they watch long enough to get a rating point.
Exactly.
For the ratings, people who take the rating. Even if you watch a quarter, this game sucks, you turn away. You've watched. You've already watched because you got to get a fix.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, let's hit it. Let's come back. Zach Berman's going to be joining us from The Athletic. We'll talk to Zach. Amy Fadul at 1:00. We'll get into the biggest surprises, Derek, of the first round of the NFL draft coming up at 2:00 and a bunch of other stuff. Aaron Rodgers, the impact that he's had financially on the Jets already, all that kind of stuff coming up. More on the Phillies and what's going on with them. A lot of ground to cover for sure. So don't go anywhere. He's Derek. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I'm going to tell you right now about the great folks at Bravo Pizza of Havertown. Yes, Bravo Pizza of Havertown, now part of the channel and the show. I've been going there my entire life. They have been family owned since 1985. Alex and his crew, they're open 7 days a week. Fresh food made daily. Flour flown in from Italy. Their pizza and the rest of their food is off the charts. They offer 20 different styles of pizza. They have slices to go. They also have the you name it, we will make it. That's right. You call up, you put a request in for a certain style of pizza. They will accommodate. I like the upside down, man. That's my go-to. They don't just have pizza, as I mentioned. They have fresh pasta. They have sandwiches. They have wraps. They have wings. They have salads. Bravo's also committed to the community. They have fundraisers for charities, schools, little leagues, where the proceeds go to the organizations. In fact, this Monday and Tuesday, they will be supporting the Eagles Autism Challenge. So you got to stop in. A portion of the proceed will go to that great charity. That's for sure. You could follow them on Instagram and Facebook for daily specials and promotions at the Bravo Pizza of Havertown. The address, 1305 Westchester Pike in the Manoa Shopping Center in Havertown, Pennsylvania, 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center, Havertown, 610-446-3810, 610-446-3810. Bravo Pizza of Havertown.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake a mama. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back, everybody. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this Tuesday. He's Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. Barrett may be popping in at some point. We will see what happens, but always thrilled to talk to our next guest. Does an amazing job covering the Eagles for The Athletic. You can follow him on Twitter at ZBerm. That would be Zach Berman. Zach, first off, before we get to the Eagles, man, I know what a Sixers fan you are. I need your take on last night and the beard going bananas.
Yeah, that was an awesome game to watch. I mean, all around, you respect the performance from the team. Obviously, Harden and Doc Rivers, right? I mean, he's gotten a lot of criticism in this market. That was a well-coached game on his part. So very impressed and curious to see what happens these next few days.
Yeah, it's a big advantage they have there. That's for sure, Zach. No doubt. All right, so let's dig into this thing. It was an eventful 3 days for the Eagles, that's for sure. And you see the slight move up to get Jalen Carter, the patience to wait it out at number 30 for Nolan Smith. So let's start there, and we'll dig into some of the other aspects and certainly the trade of DeAndre Swift. But Carter at 9, Zach, there were some areas that you thought he may go, maybe Seattle, maybe the Raiders, et cetera. But as that's playing out, how surprised were you? And maybe you weren't because of some of the off the field stuff that he ended up lasting and Eagles getting him at 9.
I thought 5 was the big pressure point. Seattle has had tolerance in the past for players who might have off the field questions. And they're a team that's a contender or that views themselves that way. Right. So I thought that if he got past Seattle and Detroit, the Eagles would be in striking distance. And I thought 7 was a spot where they would look to jump. But when Carter slipped, it was clear that the Eagles should go after him. It was the right move to do. From a talent perspective, he's that good a player. I'm not dismissing or even belittling the off-field questions, but that's baked into the price, right? So then once you get past 5, there's no comparable prospect, and it made too much sense for the Eagles. I give Howie Roseman a lot of credit for being aggressive and going after him.
Hey, Zach, let's slide down the board a bit to Nolan Smith because the draft kept unfolding. I'm on a set in Ocean City with Rob. We're doing a draft show, and we're watching 21, 22, 23, 24. And we're all thinking in unison, there's no way Nolan Smith is falling to 30. There's absolutely no. We're still thinking there's a possibility the Eagles are going to trade out of that first round to get more draft capital for the middle round of the draft. So what was your mindset as you start to see it unfold and you still think Nolan Smith is still sitting right there?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised because I thought he was a strong candidate for number 10. I mean, I thought Jalen Carter would be their top choice, but I didn't know if Carter would get past Seattle, like I said. And I thought of the options at 10, Smith made a lot of sense. Fits the Eagles' profile. There's so much there to like. When he was slipping, I was saying, is Howie going to trade up here, right? But then can you trade up twice in the first round? They already had a limited cupboard of day 3 picks, right? So you couldn't really necessarily do it that way. They were patient and they let the board come to them. I was very surprised to see him there. I understand he's not everyone's cup of tea, so to speak, in that he's a sub 240-pound pass rusher and didn't have prolific production at Georgia. I would say from the size perspective, didn't we just see what Hassan Reddick did? And then from the production perspective, I hear you there, but that's a conversation about Georgia's defense. You won't be able to find a player under Kirby Smart who has had double-digit sacks. It hasn't happened. It's a different style of defense. So I thought it just made too much sense. And from an athletic perspective, from a traits perspective, I mean, you're talking a 4.38 40, a 41-inch vertical. Those are skill position numbers. You're drafting a wide receiver with that, and you're happy. Drafting an edge rusher with that, man, that's really impressive. So I thought Howie did a good job navigating that round.
Zach, let me swing back to Carter for a minute. I will get to the off the field stuff in a second, but I just want to talk about in terms of ability. In your estimation, does he come in here more NFL ready than Jordan Davis? And if so, how big a role do you see him playing this year in this Eagles defense?
Yes, I think first off, he's more versatile along the line than Jordan Davis was. I think he's a better player than Jordan Davis. And that's not a knock on Jordan Davis. I mean, Jordan Davis, what you're getting is that rare blend of size and athleticism. But if you talk to people in that building, when they were scouting Jordan Davis and they were scouting the Kobe Dean, they kept saying, "Who's this 90? I'm sorry, who's this 88? Who's number 88?"
Right?
Because he's that talented. And from a playing style perspective, he's probably more comparable to Fletcher Cox or Ndamukong Suh, that type of player, than Jordan Davis, who was more of a traditional nose tackle. And you thought the athletic gifts would allow him to be more, and he still can be more. But I'm expecting Jalen Carter to be a day one contributor, and I don't think it's a stretch to think that he's the best defensive tackle on the team by the end of the season. And that's not a knock on Fletcher Cox. That's just saying how good of a player Jalen Carter can be.
All right, Zach, staying with the Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter theme here. You being on the media side like us, and it was brought up a few weeks ago, which we discussed on this show. What is the media going to say when the numbers start adding up weekly that Jalen Carter is playing more snaps percentage-wise than a Jordan Davis? You know how the media is and how we think. So what is that conversation going to be like across the media front?
Well, I hope I can't speak for every reporter. I can speak for this one sitting in this seat here. I wouldn't be surprised. Would be expecting it. Different type of player. Jordan Davis needs to prove that he can be a 3-down player. He needs to prove that he can affect the quarterback. I don't have that same question with Jalen Carter. I expect Jalen Carter to play more. Jalen Carter was drafted higher than Jordan Davis. Jalen Carter he's a different player than Jordan Davis. I think Jordan Davis can be really productive or can in a role, and then you hope that he expands into a bigger role. But I think with Jalen Carter is a top 5 talent. Jalen Carter, I mean, that's the reality. If the Chicago Bears never traded that number 1 pick and the off the field questions weren't present, Jalen Carter might have been the number 1 pick in the draft. That's the type of player you're talking about here. So I would expect Jalen Carter to play more than Jordan Davis.
Off the field stuff, Zach. It went beyond the tragic accident as well. Questions about practice habits and whatnot. And again, reports that it maybe wasn't the most glowing review from some of the Georgia folks. Had you been hearing that kind of stuff, rolling up here, and how does this speak to the culture that they have and the vetting process with Dom DeSandro, et cetera?
Yeah. So look, there are 2 separate things there, right? The legal situation and the tragic fatal accident. And I don't want to diminish or downplay what occurred there. That it was tragic, and that's where, like you said, you trust Dom DeSandro to find out all the information, as much information as you can, and you make an informed decision based on that. The other part of it, whether you're talking about work ethic, desire, coachability, all those buzzwords you hear this time of year. I heard whispers of it, but I'll say, and this isn't to belittle those reports either, but Georgia had no problem putting him out on the field on Saturdays, right? I heard the same thing about Kelee Ringo, right? Georgia had no problem putting him out on the field on Saturdays. And to me, if someone's that much of an issue, the guy behind him's not a better player.
That's a good point.
And I think the Eagles will find the same thing, that your risk tolerance as an organization is often directly proportional to the talent of the player. And the player is extraordinarily talented. And unless they have a better option behind them, which I don't think they will, and I don't think there are going to be many players in this league who are better defensive tackles than Jalen Carter. So obviously you need to make sure that the motivation's there. And, there's an expression that you hear often, that money doesn't change people. It just makes them more of what they are. And so you see that going into the NFL. But from a talent perspective, and that's what you're doing in the draft, he's a really good player.
And Zach, I think the Eagles have the perfect combination of veteran leadership in that locker room to groom Jalen Carter, and if need be, to help keep him on the right track. And I'm not trying to demean him or saying that what he did in the past is going to be a problem in the future. But because of the way this roster is structured with veterans, highly decorated veterans, a team that's just coming off a Super Bowl, I think they have the perfect pedigree in that locker room to help him make that transformation from the college life to the pros.
You're right. And, Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and Jalen Hurts, they'll know where Jalen Carter's locker is on day one, right? And that's what you want. You want an infrastructure in place to support, younger. And by the way, it's not just these off the field questions that or these, coachability or things like that. It's anyone who's 21, 22 years old making an adjustment to the NFL. There's a lot that goes into that adjustment. And if you have 10, 11, 12-year guys who've lived it, who've in Brandon Graham's case, has seen it from a lot of ends of the spectrum, that certainly helps.
Hey, Zach, how much of an opportunity, in your estimation, does Steen have to get that starting role at guard? Is this Juergens to lose, or is this thing very much wide open?
No, I think it's Juergens' spot to lose, and I would be surprised if he does lose it. I think Steen at this point is a valuable reserve, similar to what Jack Driscoll was going into his rookie year. And the Eagles like to think a year ahead with these draft picks. I don't want to speak for Jason Kelce, and I've thought Jason Kelce has played his last year like the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
At some point, Jason Kelce is going to play his last year, and Cam Juergens is going to bounce over to center, and they're going to need a starting right guard. And when that happens, it's better to have that guy in the building, having been coached by Jeff Stoutland for a year, than just bring him in that year. So I think the timeline for Steen is reserved this year, starting right guard next year.
All right, Zach, what did you think about Howie's ability to move back into the middle round and the fourth round, and in back-to-back picks? He basically addresses the secondary with Brown and Ringo, two guys who are sure tacklers and speedy as well. This defense in general is getting a lot faster every year.
I give credit to Howie for the Ringo trade because it's uncharacteristic of him. And I say it's uncharacteristic of him because the Eagles place a premium on future picks. That's a trade that other teams do, and the Eagles like to be the beneficiaries of it. The Eagles like to trade their fourth rounder this year for your third rounder next year. You're getting the pick increase. But it's something the Eagles have done in the past, and Howie has never done it the way he did it this year. I give him credit for doing it because I do think Ringo is the type of player you do it for. I get that there might be questions about, stiffness in the hips or whatever it may be. 6'2", 207. Taller corners sometimes have those stiffer hips. But man, he's 6'2", 207, ran a 4.36 40, started 2 years at Georgia for the back-to-back national champions, had the game-winning interception or the game-clinching interception in the national championship game, and he's 20 years old. To put that in perspective for you, when his rookie contract expires in 4 years, he'll be younger than Hendon Hooker was on draft day this year.
Wow.
Right? I mean, he's going to be a 24-year-old free agent. That doesn't happen very often. So I really like the risk that they took. And by the way, if we're talking about next year's draft, when the Eagles traded that third-round pick, if Kelee Ringo went back to school and he's 21 years old, a 3-year starter at Georgia, 6'2", 207, runs a 4.36 40, my guess is he goes higher in that draft, right? So I think it was a good move for the Eagles to make.
Zach, how much do you like Sidney Brown? And I guess I'll sort of ask you the same question along the same lines that I posed with the offensive line. Does he have a shot to crack this lineup? I mean, it would appear if there's a place, it might be safety. So how much of a chance do you think he has? So
Sidney Brown, this is one where you need or the organization's trusting their evaluation. This wasn't a consensus pick, and B, they took Sidney Brown higher than all but 2 safeties in this draft. Okay, and so you're saying this guy was the third best safety in the draft, and if you consider Brian Branch a nickel and the player that Washington drafted, potentially a corner, you can make the argument that Brown was the first or second safety taken in this draft. And so the Eagles, they called him the Red Star player. It's a guy that they targeted, and you're trusting their evaluation there. I didn't think he would go. I didn't think he was a slam dunk to go when he did, but they really liked the player. To answer your question, yes, I think he can start. I think he will start. I think you take a safety in the third round, the highest drafted safety this organization's had since Jaquan Jarrett in 2011, then you expect him to start. And if he's not starting over Reed Blankenship, or he's not starting over Justin Evans, or let's say Blankenship starting, he's not starting over Terrell Evans. I mean, I think you're expecting your third-round pick, top of the third round safety, to start day one.
Zach, when you look up and down the Eagles draft for this year, which pick really surprised you the most that they were able to get?
Well, I mean, I think Jalen Carter surprised me that they were able to get him when they did. I guess the whispers there. And then, like we mentioned, Nolan Smith at 30. I thought Nolan Smith at 10 would have made sense. I thought Ringo where they did. But the pick that surprised me that they made, I'd probably say Tanner McKee. Not to say that your backup quarterback needs to stylistically be the same as your starter. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I just think the success rate of quarterbacks that late in the draft is obviously low. And there was a big run on quarterbacks this year. So he was the 13th quarterback taken. So there were a lot of teams that took quarterbacks that didn't want him. And so the Eagles are trusting their evaluation that there's something there. So it's a 6th-round pick. It's a low leverage pick, but that was probably the one that surprised me the most as far as the player, more so than the slot.
Last one, Zach, and I know you got to get out of here. Let's talk about the DeAndre Swift trade. It appears they didn't give a ton up, number one. Number two, if he walks after this year, you get a nice compensatory pick as well. Home run hitting ability, injuries have been a factor, similar to Penny in terms of the injuries, but kind of role and how big a role do you see him playing?
I think he'll be their top running back. I think he should be their top running back. I mean, they did give up a future fourth, and he's someone who was the 35th pick in the draft a few years ago. He's 24 years old. He's been inconsistent, but when he's been when he's had top of the league plays, I'll put it that way, or plays that really jump out at you. I thought it was a real smart move to make. The Eagles have had a lot of success in the past few years targeting players entering the final years of their rookie contracts, whether it was C.J. Gardner-Johnson or Tim Jernigan or Jordan Howard. We can go on down that list. This is the type of move that Howie Roseman has done in the past, and was the right move to make. And I would far rather have. I think DeAndre Swift is more talented than any running back they were going to get in day 3 of the draft, and it's a low cost move. It was the right move to make, and I expect much of him this year.
Zach, we got to let you run, man, but we appreciate you hopping on. We know how busy it is this time of year for you. We do appreciate it. We always love your work, and we love having you on the show, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Zach, take care. That is Zach Berman from The Athletic. Good insights there. Very good insights. That's for sure. I always enjoy talking to Zach. I'm really interested, Gunner, just to pick out one of the guys we were talking about with Nolan Smith. The fact that you already have Reddick in the building, and you went through some of the trials and tribulations, what worked, what didn't work with him last year as far as body set and what he skill set. I think that's a great advantage to hitting the ground running here with Nolan Smith this year.
There's no question about it. And we talk about how defenses are getting smaller and faster. The only negative to that is offensive lines are getting bigger and bigger. So they have the advantage when it comes to the running game. So whereas the Eagles get faster laterally and vertically in terms of what they want to do to be disruptive, they're going to have to give up something in terms of trying to defend the run. And, it worked for them in the past. They weren't the biggest defensive line last year as well, but look at the volume of chaos and disruption they were able to cause because of the type of players they get. Now we see that they're adding that speed to the back end as well. They're adding the speed to the linebacking core as well. They're adding that speed to the D-line as well. That speaks volumes in a pass-happy league that we're in right now in terms, you have to give something to get. And the way we're looking at this Eagles team being constructed in the last few years, they're willing to give up size in a lot of ways on defense to get a lot faster, to be more disruptive in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah. I think that considering how many compensation picks they have next year, compensatory picks they have next year, it allowed Howie to be a little bit more, aggressive and gamble a little bit more with some of the things that you were able to do. So that's, look, to me, it's when you're a good general manager, and Zach mentioned this, you're always looking a step or two ahead. You're concentrating on how trying to build your team right now.
Right.
But you get meaning like, all right, I can move a fourth rounder here in 2024 because I have 2 fourth rounders, or I have 3 fourth rounders, and I can do this and I can do that. And hey, if it doesn't work out with DeAndre Swift, if he's hurt the whole year, we still get a 4th rounder back in return. So we're really not losing anything. Like that to me is just smart. And it's seeing 3 steps ahead. And that's, what Howie's done. Derek, I think they've done a really good job of replenishing. Like if you're asking me, I think if Jalen Carter stays right, it's an enormous thing for this team. And you don't lose that much on your defensive line, despite the fact that you lost Javon Hargrave and his 11 sacks. If you're asking me where I'm most worried, it's linebacker. I just don't know about Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow right now. You lost TJ Edwards, who we knew what he is. He's a tackling machine. And Kaiser White's at least been around. We know. These 2 guys, Morrow's played, don't get me wrong. But, Nakobe's an unproven. And then you go to the safety spot. But it sounds to me exactly the way Zach was laying it out. He thinks Sidney Brown very much can be that guy and the starter with where he was taken.
Yeah, there's no question about it. People sometimes forget that just because you were not drafted in the first round doesn't mean that you're not a really good football player. And a lot of times teams draft for a specific need, and maybe when you look at Sidney Brown, you thought, how in the world did he drop all the way to the 3rd round? Well, you know what? The teams that needed cornerbacks and safeties took those earlier. And he just happened to be sitting there floating because other teams need offensive linemen. They needed better edge rushers. They need to get a little bit better in the linebacking core. It wasn't a need for them at that particular time. And it happens all the time. We sit here and talked about Nakobe Dean all season long. How in the world did he slip to the 3rd round? Despite the stories about his shoulder, was his shoulder right? He was deemed medically cleared, but he still slipped to the 3rd round. It happens every year. This kid could be one of the steals of the draft for him. If he plays the way he did in college, he could be one of the steals of the draft for the Eagles this year.
Yeah, no question. I mean, look, as we sit here right now, and they got to develop them, and they got to get out on the field and perform. There's no doubt. And all we can do is go off of, on paper. But on paper right now, I would put their draft up against anybody else. And you're doing that with a backdrop of having been in the Super Bowl last year. The other teams we might be comparing their draft to, at least a lot of them, we're not playoff teams. We're not very good teams for the most part. We're likely picking high for a reason. That's the difference with this Eagles team.
And he went out. He got 4 players from the premier conference in all of football, college football, the SEC. Got 3 more from the defending champions in Georgia. He's taken 5 Georgia players in the last 2 drafts. You know, you talk about a complete transformation from a guy who we were screaming about. Why do you totally neglect the SEC? To now, over the last 3 drafts, making the SEC type players a prominent part of this team moving forward, and it shows. Look at the talent. Look at the Devontae Smith. Look at the Landon Dickerson. Look at what these guys have given you. You know, Jordan Davis has promise. Nakobe Dean has promise. Now you have 3 more players from a team that was one of the best, if not the best defensive team in all of college football. They may not be the ideal size that you want for certain players, but they're productive. Nowadays is about production. Production does not come in size. It comes in physical attributes. And as we've seen across the National Football League, production is not a prototypical size at linebacker, edge rusher, D tackle. Plain and simple. The game has changed in terms of how you approach building your team now.
Yep. All right, let's get a timeout. Let's come back. We'll keep it rolling. Amy Fadul from NBC Sports Philadelphia is going to join us. She does the pre and post game show for them, for the Sixers. And we will talk to Amy about the Sixers' unbelievable, surprising, shocking Game 1 win last night in Boston without Joel Embiid. Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let me tell you about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group. Because, look, I can tell you from personal experience, I had a tough time finding the right person for my investments, for my hard-earned money, and I found Jim and Principal, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review, you might have a small business, you're trying to set up your employee benefits. That's another resource that Jim can assist you with. Personally, I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and it's just been a great experience. And I also use him as a sounding board. I'm not sure about something. Why does this look like this? What does this mean? He's always there to answer your questions. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You can email him as well, Murray, MURRAY, .jim@principal.com. That's Murray.jim@principal.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
We're back. We're Sports Take. That handsome fella is Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. We're hanging out with you on this Tuesday. Hi, Derek. You're muted, but that's okay. You can wave. Hi, Derek. There you go.
Oh, Rob, stop it. The compliments, just stop. Just stop now.
Just like you wrote it, Derek. Just like you wrote it. All right. Joining us right now. Can't wait to speak to her after that unbelievable game. I'm choked up talking about it.
It's okay, Rob. You'll get through it.
Amy Fadul joins us, who does an awesome job on the pre and post game show for NBC Sports Philadelphia. Amy, first off, give me your reaction. Here's where I want to start. Other than how handsome Derek is, and I choked myself up saying it.
I can tell.
This is what I said to Derek earlier. As crazy as the first half was in terms of Boston getting whatever they wanted, scoring at will, it's a 3-point game, and you're saying to yourself, this should be like a 30-point game. That to me was like, okay, they're in this thing. This is going to be a weird night, but they're in it.
Shooting 70-something%, and the Celtics couldn't miss, and there was no fouls, there was no free throws into the last 30 seconds of the first half. That was as weird a first half as I've certainly ever seen. But to your point, Robbie, I mean, down only 3 points after the way that defensively the Sixers played, you're thinking, what's going on? And no Embiid. So, I mean, they were obviously owning the paint. It was no surprise that that's how they were going to do. And the big difference was the zone in the second half. You just had to go to it. And I know Doc doesn't want to overuse it because then teams can start to play around it. But you had to go zone in that game with no Joel Embiid. They were just, I mean, it was like, I think 75% of their points in the first half for the Celtics were in the paint. So it was pretty obvious that was going to have to be switched up. But to be down only 3 at the halftime, that's when there was definitely a moment. And it was when in the third quarter, when Tyrese Maxey came back in and scored like 6 straight points, I was like, are they going to win this? Is this going to happen? Are they really going to win this game? And you thought maybe they actually are, which is just mind boggling when you think about it.
Yeah.
Amy, you've watched this team all season long. Can you say enough about the resiliency of this team, especially in adverse situations? Because if we're all being honest with ourselves, there's no way anybody thought Sixers were going to go in there and take game 1 in Boston. This team has been in their head all season long.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason they were double-digit underdogs. I mean, even with Embiid, they were probably still an underdog, right? I mean, it would have been probably the top seed if they hadn't had a little bit of the collapse there at the end for the Celtics. So they definitely had a couple of chinks in their armor that you've seen, but the resiliency you spoke of, Derek, it's funny. We talk about that during the season, and there's some games where you thought, well, they should have won and they had to come back and win, whether it was the teams that were below them in the standings or teams under 500. But those still show the stepping stones. They still show that they can do that, and they gave themselves that kind of belief. There's several games during the season, whether it was with Embiid or without. I mean, to go 12-5 without Joel Embiid, that is a vast improvement from anything we've ever seen with this team when he's been out, whether it's injury or rest. But I think the resiliency between knowing that you can win without Joel, and 2, that you can come back from those double-digit deficits. They've done that repeatedly in the postseason and obviously before. They did it a couple times, when they would find themselves down to the Nets and then down to different teams, Celtics obviously earlier in the season as well. So it's definitely that kind of muscle memory, knowing that you can rely on that. We did this before, we've done this, and I know we can do it again. And you need veterans on your team to basically express that. And you saw that with the likes of James Harden, and especially PJ Tucker.
Hey, let's talk about Doc Rivers because, look, he's been criticized a lot in this town, right here. But I will say that really the entire year, but it was on full display last night. I thought he took Joe Mazzulla to school in a lot of ways. And you mentioned switching to the zone. That's the first one that sort of stands out. But there was a lot of stuff that went on in that game where I just thought Doc was 2-3 steps ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, they knew that they had to call a couple of different sets to get guys going too. And I thought that was big. The key timeouts. Hey, we need to get Tyrese Maxey going. Here's a timeout to get him back, whether it's a pep talk from the coach and a pep talk from James Harden. You need to get that guy going. And so they called a couple of sets for him. But I think it's, he's been much maligned, and some of it is deserved because we all know the history of Doc Rivers in the playoffs. Aside from the 2008, we know the history of the Sixers in the playoffs. And you're thinking, well, the marriage is not going to be so good. But so far, it's been great. And I think this is probably his best coaching year that he's had since he's come here to Philadelphia. I don't think that that's a big stretch when you look at just the results of willing his team and helping them get to 54 wins, despite the bevy of injuries. At one point, there was one point in the season where he had no Tyrese Maxey, no James Harden, and no Joel Embiid. And to still come out of those games with, winning record in that span, I think it says something. But, calling the timeout to kind of ease the troops, so to speak, at different times, we've seen that. The switching to the zone. Also, speaking of switching, one thing we looked at, the one thing they love to do is switch when James Harden has the ball. And you saw that was a masterful display of trying to make sure he gets the ball in his hand, set the screen so that matchup is poor and it's in James Harden's favor, like basically the game-winning three-pointer. Having those sets to draw up, those screens to draw up and know that they can do that. And obviously the reliability of having a guy like James Harden turn back the clock, throw that clock away. It didn't turn it around. He doesn't even know where the clock is. But yeah, I thought it was a master performance. Joe Mazzulla is a first-year head coach, and I think he's done a very good job. He has a very talented team. He has 2 all-star wings, obviously, and he is the 6th man of the year. So I'm not going to say that he doesn't have a stacked roster, but he's done a lot with it. I think he's going to be a good coach, but he's won 1 playoff series in his entire head coaching career. So there is something to be said about, Doc Rivers has been there before, like it or not, whether the results show themselves or not. He certainly has been there before, and he is a lot more experienced.
Hey, Amy, understanding that every game writes its own story, were you surprised in some ways that Doc decided to shorten his bench as much as he did last night?
I was, just because the Celtics are so athletic and they can really run you, and that's not the Sixers style, right? We saw that in the first half. Sixers style is much more slow it down, control the ball, dribble, take the air out a bit. Tyrese Maxey is the lone exception to that. So when he's out on that fast break, those transition points are usually his. But I thought it was interesting. I thought maybe we would see a guy like Daniel House, because he does give that athleticism and he can play that wing position. And the perimeter defenders are so good for the Celtics. I was surprised he didn't try to do a little bit more, just try to kind of run with them. But maybe that's part of his plan of thinking like, we're not going to, no matter who we've got, we're not going to be able to run with them on that degree. And so he switched it up. But I was a little surprised the bench was as short as it was. Obviously, it was going to be one person shorter with no Joel, with Paul Reed, obviously, in the lineup. But I was surprised you didn't get more Daniel House. I thought he was a guy that I could have seen gotten some minutes. It doesn't mean that he won't see them going ahead, but he's been a guy that's been able to come out, give him spells at times. But D'Anthony Melton playing so well, it was like, all right, well, the bench who we got is doing so well, we're just going to keep them out there.
Hey, wait, let's dig more into Harden here, because I think we were all concerned about both he and Embiid getting to the finish line and be valid, right? And certainly having the rest helped, I would guess, and that we'll see how it looks tomorrow with Harden after all those minutes and all the carrying he did. But nonetheless, it was not only 3-point, it was mid-range game. If you looked at the numbers from the last series, it was terrible inside of the arc. And it was really a throwback in a lot of ways. And I just love the realization, and he knows it, like, Embiid's not here. I got to do this. And
this is me.
It's easier. Yeah. Easier said than done. It was a masterclass from Harden.
It was. And you mentioned it against the Nets. He was unable to get those 2-point shots. It was like 26.5% 2-pointers. Obviously, he shot really well from 3, so it didn't rear its ugly head. But there was a concern because this is a more athletic and more physically defensive team. The Nets are physical, but they just didn't have some of the assets that the Celtics do. So I thought it was a great adjustment by James Harden. He didn't try to drive in and draw those fouls. No one got fouled. There was no fouls. 16 free throws by the Celtics, 12 for 12 for the Sixers as a team total. So he wasn't getting the call. So he changed his game up, and he would drive in just to the point of that little elbow, the nail, that mid-range, the 12 to 15, 16 footer, and he was hitting those. And I thought, well, no more worries about those 2-point shots, because I think the frustration level was with him is like, I'm not getting these calls. It's a different whistle, obviously, in the playoffs. You have to adjust. And I thought he did. I mean, you mentioned masterclass. That is as important as anything else, because for him not to drive in recklessly to try to pick up these fouls that were not coming and try to beat that horse until it, couldn't survive anymore. I thought that was really important, because he knew that he wasn't going to be that same James Harden getting the calls, going to the free throw line. He went to the line 4 times. He and Paul Reed and Tyrese Maxey. That's it. Right. Those guys went to the line 4 times each, and they all made 4 of their shots. Paul Reed making them in the
huge
guts of the game is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. But I just thought his mid-range game, to realize that I'm not going to be able to drive into the paint, that's not working for me, I'm going to adjust, was definitely, that part was the biggest masterclass.
We always know the physicality increases twofolds when it comes to the playoffs. What did you think about the discrepancy in the foul call? Sixers had 20. Boston only had 10 fouls. How is that possible in a game that physical?
I mean, it's home court. So, right. I mean, there was definitely a couple of fouls on both sides that I thought, that's not a foul.
Yeah.
There was probably 3 or 4. I know James Harden probably picked up 1 or 2. Tyrese Maxey, I thought there was a couple ticky tacks at the end. And there was one, I thought Marcus Smart absolutely got fouled going to the basket in the
Amy there? Did we lose Amy, Derek?
Uh-oh.
We lost Amy.
I think we did.
Amy, if you can hear us, we'll get you there. I think she's back. Okay.
Oh,
we lost
sorry.
you for one
There
second.
she is.
It's the magic of the internet, Amy. You never know what could happen. Keeps you on your toes. Yes.
Xfinity. But yeah, Xfinity internet.
You too, huh?
Yeah, exactly. All of us. It's random. I'm like literally the router. I move it closer to that, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, the physical nature of the game. I mean, you're always gonna have like a couple of calls that just go the home team's way. But I was surprised. I thought they called it somewhat evenly until the very end, and then I think they thought like, oh wait, we gotta maybe like. You always feel like that they have to play catch up. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like in their minds, it's kind of like when it's near the end of the month and you see all of a sudden the cops are out everywhere. I'm like, what do you got like your limit? You got to get your monthly stipend in for like the amount of fouls that you call, your tickets you have. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a fairly well officiated game, because in the beginning there wasn't anything called, like no fouls. And then I was like, oh, they felt like maybe they had to catch up. But there was definitely a couple that I thought James Harden got fouled on. And there was one where he tried to come down after shooting the 3. You have to allow him to come down. You have to give him space to land. That's a foul every day in the regular season. So I guess they're really swallowing those whistles. We'll see how game 2 goes, because the coaches usually are the ones that kind of dictate that. And you remember after they called it the Nick Nurse treatment after the Nets first, and they're like, oh, you're letting Joel Embiid do this, this, and this. And so you kind of expect it to swing. But I thought the comments afterwards by the coaches, didn't disparage the refs at that much at all. So I'll be interested to see if they call it the same. It was called pretty loose.
All right, Aim, 2 enormous plays Maxey's involved in. The one, he drives. The officials have differing calls here. One is a block, one is a charge. It's enormous for a million reasons. He's got 5 fouls. It would have meant the end of him. But this is, it ends up being an N1. Sixers down 4 at that point with $1:37 left. That cuts it to 1. Let's start with the swing there. They either don't get 3 points or he fouls out, and they probably lose the game if that doesn't happen.
Well, think about it, because I know the second play you're going to talk about, then he wouldn't be present for that second play. He's literally the only person that could have made that play, given his positioning and the way that he plays his style of basketball. But yeah, I mean, we watched that over and over and over again. At that point, we're down on the set waiting to go on, right? So it's me and Jim Lynam and Mark Jackson, and we're just, did he slide over? And it was that close. Like Marcus Smart slid over just a little bit, and he was just on the outside of that arc. So it was like a game of just inches at that point for them to review that. And that is why you don't challenge until the 4th quarter. These coaches watching these NBA playoffs, Budenholzer, when he challenged something in the first quarter, I'm thinking, do you not know how this works? You don't get that back.
That's a fireable offense right there.
It's mind-blowing to me. Challenges are 4th quarter only, and they're in 2 minutes or less, unless there's something so egregious like your star player with 5 minutes to go picked up a 6th foul and you just have to do it. It's mind-blowing. So that's why you wait. I still think that whole challenge thing should be reviewed. I think if you do win your challenge, you should get another one, because I think that would play into the scheming of using your challenge. But as it is right now, it's a 4th quarter only. That's it. You can never use it ahead of that unless your best player is going to foul out for some reason earlier in the game. But that's a massive challenge. And they looked at it and they got the call right, because when it happened, I was like, oh, that's a charge. Like, what are you doing? Because of the style that Tyrese Maxey plays, I think automatically that's your first thought, because he has always going in with a full head of steam. It looked like Marcus Smart was set. You look like his feet were in the place that they should have been. And you're thinking, uh-oh. And then you see that he was moving over just slightly, and he had just moved outside. So
yeah, I thought Horford got him on the arm too, Aim, if you look at it.
Yes, if you did. And
yeah.
You could. And that's the challenge rules are always interesting, because, they can change a few things, but they can't change everything. So that was massive. And then of course he made the free throw, and it's a whole different ball game. And the second play has to be when Malcolm Brogdon passed right to him.
With a half a second left on the shot clock.
Talk about another thing you have to review. Like, it was that close, because it was in his hands, and then it was so close because he heard the buzzer or a whistle, and you see him, and thank God he didn't. He thought about dropping.
Yeah.
He thought about just dropping the ball and just stopping. But he paused, looks back, and it's like, I'm just going to score. Like, that's a heads up play. That's going to go underrated, but he's the only one in that position. They had great defense to work the shot clock all the way down. PJ Tucker's in there. James Harden, for all of his defensive deficiencies, really did a good job, I thought, on there. Enough they had to keep passing the ball. And then when they went back to pass to Tatum wasn't there. He was trying to move and make something happen, because he knew the shot clock was going. The only thing you had is a prayer up in the bucket to try to tap it in when the shot clock's that low. And Maxey didn't move. And it's like he looked surprised. He looked down and was like, I've got the ball. I'm going to go. Like, I'm going to go. It was like a wide receiver catching the ball, and he didn't know the ball was for him. It was an incredible play.
I loved how he kept looking over his shoulder too as he drove. Like nobody's coming. I mean, nobody's behind me.
Did the whistle? What's happening? I'm just going to score it, and we'll let it go. We'll just let it go.
Yeah. All right, Amy, the $1 million question, which is a great topic of conversation between now and tomorrow night. Would you put Embiid on the floor tomorrow, give him the extended rest?
Yeah, I mean, part of me says no, because you're playing with house money.
There you go.
How insane is that sentence? Like, how insane is the sentence? It's funny. Jim Lynam and I talked about that very thing, and Jimmy's like, nah, I would not play him. I'm like, really, Jim? And so he was talking about it, and he's like, it's house money. And the style of play right now is the Celtics love to run. And you know what Joel Embiid has not done yet? Is run. So there is some concern on that.
Oh. Xfinity did it again.
They bite again. Yes, we lost Amy for 1 second.
Do you have Xfinity also?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. All right.
Yes, we all do.
Xfinity did it again.
Yes.
The best part is that it comes up and it says, like, move closer to your router. I mean, I can pick my router up if it wasn't attached to the ground. I'm so close to it.
It's all right. We're
good.
What
I was going to say was that the physical nature of this series that's a concern. It's a 4-week injury, usually this LCL, and he hasn't done any running. He's done some shooting, so it would concern me a little bit with the style of play the Celtics know. And of course, they know that he's not 100%. So aren't you going to try to run him and exploit that? That would concern me. Not the fact that that they already won a game and they show that they can win up there. I don't know that you can win 2 without Joel Embiid. You're going to have to probably try, because why push it? A not 100% Joel Embiid is just not going to serve you well in Boston for game 2. But yeah, it's crazy to think you're going to rest or sit out the would-be MVP. But why take the chance? Why take the chance? I don't know. It's a dicey one. To me, him not doing any running yet, that's concerning.
It is. It's tough, because you look at it and you say, all right, well, I don't know. You could buy him like 3 more days, whatever Thursday to Saturday. Yeah, 3 more days, Wednesday to Saturday. You could buy him a little bit more time, but you could also, there she is. Well, you could also go for the kill shot, Aim, and you could potentially walk out of there up 2-0. Like, oh my God, who would have expected that? I mean, it is, and you're right, especially if he's pushing, like if he's like, look, I busted my butt. I can't sit on the bench and watch these guys do it without me again. I have to play. It's hard to say no to that.
Oh yeah. I mean, if he wants to go and he says he can go, then you play him. It'll be interesting to see what the medical people say, because it's a dicey injury, and you don't want him to hurt himself anymore. And you don't want him, if you get past, or when you get past the Celtics, you're going to need him going forward. I know it's fun to try to win without him, but that's not a possibility. In the grand scheme of things.
For as phenomenal as Harden was, whenever Embiid's not in there, we always talk about how everybody has to step their game up. And before game one, we were talking about how you got to get Maxey to get past this. He can't score against this Boston defense, which he did. Tobias Harris, you need to give us close to 20 points or more, which he did. But I don't think the Sixers win this game without what Melton did in this game last night. I mean, you talk about timely shooting. I mean, obviously Harden's the headliner, but what Melton did last night in key moments, I don't think they win the game without it.
I mean, 3-point shooting, Sixers statistically are the best 3-point shooting team. The Celtics, meanwhile, are the second highest in volume. They shoot usually 40-something threes. And because of the way that the Sixers made them play, specifically defensively, like DeAnthony Melton, they couldn't get those threes off in the second half. They only shot 26. That's almost half of what they usually shoot. So for him to make his 5 3-pointers, which is massive, and do what he does defensively, he is probably, I mean, PJ Tucker is going to get a lot of the flowers, and he should, but DeAnthony Melton is a guy that you absolutely had to have if you were going to get past the second round of the playoffs. He and PJ Tucker combined are just those, Doc calls them street fighters. They're the guys that do everything you need. His nickname in Memphis, DeAnthony Melton, was Mr. Do Something. He should be called Mr. Do Everything, because whatever you need him to do, he does. He's the Swiss Army knife. He is the guy that you need a 3-pointer, he's going to get it. You need to defend Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, I got you. I just feel like he's such a glue guy in more ways than one. But on the court, he just does everything. And no, you don't win that game without DeAnthony Melton. 0%.
All right, Aim. So if I said to you, this player had 0 points, 0 field goal attempts, 0 free throws in 37 minutes, boy, what a bust, what a bum. He contributed nothing. I think we'd all agree if we didn't see the game, but that's PJ Tucker's line, which couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, what that was an epic PJ line right there, but
wasn't it?
Total impact on the game and this team and toughness and everything else. Just talk about what he's brought to the table.
When I was watching him, I thought about something Brett Brown said after Jimmy Butler when he tried to call him James, and then we all found out his real name was actually just Jimmy. He called him the adult in the room, in that Brett Brown accent. That guy, PJ Tucker, was the adult in the room. He was the engine. Yes, PJ Tucker, his stat line is going to be atrocious, and that's how it is. He's going to give him maybe a corner 3. Sometimes he gives you a bunch. Sometimes he gives you nothing. But you look at his stat line in these games, and it's +6, +8, +2, +4. And games that they're winning by those single digits, that is a huge difference maker, because he is your 50-50 ball guy. He's your diving on the ground for the ball guy. He's your rah-rah guy. He's your tough love guy. You guys have probably seen the clip of him yelling at PJ or Paul Reed. I talked to PJ Tucker last week, and he said, I'm the hardest on Paul Reed of anybody. But the improvement that I've seen in him in the previous month has been worth it. And obviously PJ knows that he can push Paul Reed that much. So the stuff he does, it'll never, ever show up in the stat sheet. There's a reason that teams miss him on their roster. There's a reason that the Bucks would probably love to have PJ Tucker back. There's a reason the Sixers, after that Heat series, said, you know who we need? PJ Tucker. They didn't even say a person like PJ Tucker. We need PJ Tucker. And he's a guy, he's a 17-year veteran. He's been to the mountaintop. He knows exactly what it takes. And his stats are going to be obscene as far as like you thinking this guy makes millions of dollars and it shows up as a 0 in the stat sheet. And it's couldn't be further than the truth. He's the true fighter on the team. He's the real heart of this team. And watching him play basketball is a thing of beauty. Even if you don't like defense, you just have to appreciate the toughness and the edge and the bulldog mentality with which he plays.
Can the 76ers sustain asking their starters to play as many minutes as they have? And when we understand why, and this is a marathon, not a sprint, but can they sustain themselves, when you're relying on your starters to play that many minutes night in and night out in a series like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have to. I don't know they can sustain it for if it goes 7. I mean, that's a lot to ask, right, given their starters' ages and, tread on the wheels, so to speak, of the tires for those guys like James Harden, PJ Tucker, obviously Joel Embiid even at injury. Tyrese Maxey, the guy's 22 years old and he can run him to the ground and play 40 minutes every night for you. But you don't have a bunch of Tyrese Maxeys. And so the style of play, that's why it's important for the Sixers to dictate the style of play. That's why they needed to slow this game down. They can't be running up and down the court, for 40 minutes. It's just not going to work for them. it's not going to work for their players. Sustainability, it's kind of one of those things. There are no back-to-backs. So that's the good thing. They did have those 8 days off. So that helps. But yeah, you wonder when they're going to hit the wall because it's every other day. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. All right, now we're back at it. Sunday. The only gap of more than 1 day is between game 6 and game 7, and then you have 2 days. So if it gets that far, then that's do or die. Your backs are against the wall, and those guys will be able to play. But I think for this series, they could. It was really such a blessing for this team in particular to be able to sweep the Nets, to get that extra rest, to get that extra practice in, given the style that everybody else plays and the style that they want to play, and the ages of their star players and the health of their star players. So, yeah, I mean, is it sustainable? No, it's not sustainable for anybody. I don't know any team that is going to be able to sustain that over a 7-game series. But it's a different beast in the playoffs, and you see these guys digging down and pulling out these games and these, kind of emotions that you don't see from them. And they know that it's because legacies are made in the playoffs, and this is going to be their legacy. And guys that have been there, that have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and made it to whether it was the Western Conference Finals, wherever they came from, they know what it takes. And they've also been on the other end. There's one guy, as I mentioned, that's only one that's won a championship, and that's PJ Tucker. Everybody else, they're waiting for that mantelpiece. And James Harden is the biggest proponent of that. I mean, here's a guy that literally turned back the clock. So I think that, yeah, it's not truly sustainable, but it'll be something that they're going to have to do because the Celtics love to run. They're going to run you to death. They're going to out-athlete you, if that's even a phrase, but that's what they're going to try to do. And the Sixers are going to try to get them to play YMCA basketball.
Aim, last one. I want to jump to the other bracket here, so to speak, in the East. And the Knicks and the Heat are back at it tonight. Heat up 1-0. How do you see that one shaking out? I was surprised. I thought that the Knicks were going to take game 1 in the Garden, but how do you see this series? Yeah.
Me too. Julius Randle, his absence is a big one. He's had a very good year, obviously all-star level year. Jalen Brunson is the reason for that turnaround up there. I don't think that's gone unnoticed. And I thought he should have gotten more votes for most improved. Maybe it's just his situation improved more than his actual physical talent. Because he's such a gifted basketball player, but he's a true winner. And I think they needed guys like that, just like the Sixers needed guys that, are tough. I think the Knicks needed some guys that are just ballers, and Jalen Brunson is a baller. Josh Hart's a baller. Those guys play with a lot of heart. I was surprised. To me, it's going to be hinging on Jimmy Butler. Obviously we saw that ankle injury. When you think back and think that guy wasn't an all-star is actually mind-blowing, given what you've seen from him. It's just that whole all-star process is kind of hilarious anyway. Joel Embiid wasn't voted a starter. James Harden's not an all-star. Like, come on. But Jimmy Butler this is Jimmy Bucket's time. He is playoff Jimmy. He's a different beast. But if his ankle's 100%, I mean, the Heat could absolutely steal too. I was surprised given the fact that there was so much hype up there. And, Madison Square Garden, here we are in the Eastern Conference semifinals. They haven't been there. I was surprised that they let that one get away. But Julius Randle is a big difference maker for them in points. And I think that they haven't, he played almost every game this year. He played 99% of the Knicks games. So they, unlike the Sixers, don't really know how to play that well without Julius Randle yet. So that to me was interesting. I thought that was a little bit telling. Sometimes that's why it's nice, a nice little silver lining for you about playing 17 games without Joel Embiid is that you do figure out a way to try to win without him. Is it perfect? No. But I think they were a little bit befuddled without having Julius out there and trying to fill that role, which, you just need to try to do something different. You're never going to fill the role of a player like that.
Right. All right. Well,
that's a heck of a series, though. I love it.
Yeah.
Amy, I got to ask you real quick about the West, because the West is like bizarro world. Is it just me? I'm not sold quietly on Denver. Okay. And you look at Golden State.
I don't know why.
I don't either. But Golden State, they can't buy a road win. They win 2 key games in Sacramento. The Lakers are playing like a team now. I can't figure out the West. Can you?
The West is bananas. The West is hilarious. I mean, I love it. It's just you have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, the Nuggets. Until the Sun series, I don't think I was a Nuggets believer, and now I'm thinking, all right. I mean, you've taken 2 against Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. I mean, those are high caliber players. I mean, Hall of Famer and Kevin Durant. And I know he just got there and obviously he didn't play that much, but I mean, he's used to that. It's not like he's not used to trying to join a team midstream. That's kind of his MO for the last little bit. And he's such a high level player, but it was different players stepping up. Jokic obviously last night, and then in game 1, it was Jamal Murray. That's a formidable duo when you have a guy that can shoot the three and space the floor like Jamal Murray, and then you have a big man who's a passer and can score inside, the 10-foot range at will. I mean, his little baby hook that he always does and his little step back fadeaway that's like that, 8 to 10 footer is absolute money. He must shoot that at an 80% clip, it feels like. So it's really tough. I was surprised that the Suns didn't take one. Obviously, Chris Paul getting hurt in game 2 is not great. That's kind of like how it is here. It's like, oh, guess what? Chris Paul hurt again. He's got a lot of miles on those tires. So it's disappointing for them because you build the super team. But part of me is just like, no, don't win, because the Nuggets are the better team. They didn't go out and try to get some superstars and do whatever. But it was surprising given Kevin Durant. He's such a winner. But I mean, one player does not a team make, and you've seen that. I mean, he can't do everything, even though he might try. So yeah, and the Lakers, who knows what's going on with the Lakers? Austin Reeves has turned into an all-star. That guy he couldn't even get on a G League roster a couple years ago. It's mind-blowing. People had to look up where he went to college. Or thinking, does this guy even go to, like, where did he come from? So I mean, the power of Anthony Davis and LeBron is huge, and obviously they've found some hidden gems out there. And I think D'Angelo Russell has had a real resurgence since getting back out there as well. But that Lakers team, I have no idea what to make of them. I mean, I knew they were going to beat the Grizzlies, especially when Mr. Dylan Brooks, who's not going to be a Grizzly anymore, is poking the bear.
Oh, my goodness.
Under any circumstance. Yes.
Also, I know that people like to talk about the NBA being scripted, but can we mention that Dylan Brooks said, "I don't respect you until you put 40 on me," and then in Game 6 they beat them by 40. I mean, you can't write this stuff. Maybe they do. I don't really know, but it's pretty bananas.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, listen, keep up the awesome work. We love checking you out pre and post. I know the games are on next to you, but you guys are available before and after each and every game on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Yourself, Jim Lynham, Mark Jackson. You can follow Amy on Twitter at Amy Fadul NBCS. Amy, keep it up.
Right.
Keep it up.
Thank you, Amy.
Appreciate you.
Good seeing you.
All right.
Likewise.
Thanks, Amy. All the best. All the best. She's great. She's awesome. Good insight there from Amy. All right, let's hit it, Gunner. Let's come back. We'll dig into a little bit of Phillies and Harper's return coming up at 2:00. We're back into our NFL segment. A couple things that we'll dive into. That we have an update on Henry Ruggs and his legal situation, which we'll update you on. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers' economic impact. Jordan Love gets some news. Ravens, some teams declining and picking up options here, which we'll get into in the biggest surprises in the first round. We'll do all that when we come back, and some Phillies as well. So don't go anywhere. Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis, hanging out with you on this lovely, lovely Tuesday. All right, let's talk about Pro Action Restoration. Yeah, Pro Action Restoration is the place that you call if your home, your business, a property you own goes through the inconvenience of water, fire, smoke, mold damage. Can be really challenging and you're not really sure who to turn to. Well, they are the people that you turn to. I did. In fact, I turned to them on a Saturday. And the great thing is Pro Action Restoration is on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. So on a Saturday, they got right out to my parents' house. They cleaned up the problem. The price was right. The crew was professional. It was a real sigh of relief for everybody involved. I will tell you that. Pro Action Restoration is licensed, bonded, and fully insured, and they've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action Restoration will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, water, fire, smoke, mold damage, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
the greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
How about that dude's voice? Derek Gunn and Rob Ellis, Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Yeah. That guy's got some pipes, man. Mute it, Gunner.
I can see you've been practicing that, my man.
A little bit. At some point, maybe someday. That's what I'll segue into. We'll see what happens there. But great hanging out with you on this Tuesday. We just wrapped things up with Amy Fadul. Fun chatting up Amy with about the Sixers and what they've that accomplishment last night. And that is the most fascinating thing to me, Derek, is going to be the Embiid thing is number one, obviously. But in terms of Harden, how much juice, how much energy, how much lift, how much burst does he have tomorrow after that performance?
Exactly.
Last night,
because we've seen in the tail end of the regular season, he was up and down. A stellar performance one night, all of a sudden, he can't hit double-digit points the next night. He can't hit double-digit assists the next night. You're right. That's going to be interesting. And I think, you know what, Rob? I don't think it's 100% guaranteed that Embiid will play Saturday, to be honest. If he doesn't play tomorrow, I don't think it's 100%. If we're talking about a grade 2 sprain, as you said, covering the games as long as we have, there's a slight tear in there somewhere. Where is a big question. Team's not going to tell you that, but where? And even if he wears a knee brace, to what degree is it affecting his mobility at both ends of the court? His ability to wheel and deal like he does when he drives at a hoop, to get back and help out on defense and alter shots. I mean, this is something we got to watch closely throughout this weekend.
Yeah, because it's easy to say, Derek, all right, just plant him underneath the basket and nobody's going to drive. It's not the way the game works.
No.
He's going to be chasing down a loose ball. He's going to be helping on a defensive set. Offensively, he's going to be all over the place. It's impossible just to anchor a guy down somewhere. So he's going to have to do, the lateral stuff, which can affect you differently than straight line. He gets hit on anything can happen here. I'm with you. Generally a grade 2 is what TNT reported last night, is 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking best case, he's out of around 2 weeks. If you wait, well, it'll be a little more than that. If you wait till Saturday, you're talking about 17 days or whatever. Still way short of 4 to 6 weeks. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't know. I think a lot of it is going to be how much is Embiid pushing this, and can you say no to him if he desperately wants to play tomorrow, if he desperately wants to play Saturday? Yeah, I don't think we know anything. I think assuming is you can't assume any of this at this point.
Well, not only that, but when he's healthy, he always falls so awkwardly, and you're wondering, is he going to hurt a wrist, a finger, or something? And now that he's got this knee issue, the way he falls, and you start favoring the other side, the stronger side.
Yeah,
a hand, a wrist, the other ankle, the other knee. I mean, it's just so much with this guy. He's a phenomenal talent, but he always has this cloud over him of getting hurt at the most inopportune time. But if the Sixers get desperate in this series, do you push them back out on the court? I mean, you got to save face. You don't think they know about this? We got to find a way to get past the second round. They've thought about this all season. This team was built to get past the second round of the playoffs. Yeah. Can you imagine if they don't get there and they didn't have him, and that was a big reason why as well? It's not a good look. Not a good look.
Yeah, well said. All right. Let's circle back to one of our big stories of the day, and it's Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper will be in the lineup tonight for the Phillies. Actually be facing a left-hander, which is interesting, Julio Urias for the Dodgers. But he went out yesterday, Derek. The team did as well. They flew out to L.A. to start that series against the Dodgers. He visited Dr. Neil El Atrache, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Nice try. I'm not trying
it. He's the doctor who performed the Tommy John surgery on him in November. And the early timelines were for July, like All-Star break kind of thing.
Yep.
So he's been cleared to swing. He's been cleared to slide, including head first. He has not yet been cleared to throw. He's having soft tosses. He's doing that kind of stuff, but not cleared to throw in game situations yet. So he will not be playing first, but he will be playing DH and will be DHing tonight. That's going to be the biggest hurdle. It's likely he doesn't play right field the entire year. Their hope is that he'll be able to play first base at some point, but they're not putting any kind of timetable on that. Just let it play out. He only missed 30 games, which is crazy considering their season went into November with the playoffs and the World Series and going all the way to Game 6. They stayed above water. They're 15-15 without him. Actually, considering they started the season off 0-4, they played actually much better baseball with him out. But they're 15-15. They're right there within striking distance. Not that you're looking at standings too closely, but they're 4.5 back of the Braves right now in the NL East. And you know what? All in all, there have been a lot of guys who have stepped up. Like Costi
yes, they have.
Has stepped up. Marsh has been awesome.
Stott.
Yeah. And, other guys need to start, and Real Muto is actually heating up, but other guys need to start pulling their weight, namely Trey Turner. But for the most part, the sort of the younger guys and the less counted on guys have done a really nice job.
To be honest with you, I don't care if Harper plays the field at all this season. I just need his bat in the lineup. Now, they've hit the ball well without him. But him in that lineup, once he gets back in the swing of things, increases their offensive arsenal twofolds and makes that lineup top to bottom that much more difficult to navigate through. Anything I can do to preserve that arm, not have him extended, not have to go back on another IR, for inflammation or anything else. I don't care one iota if he ever plays first base, right field, center field. I don't care. I need his bat in the lineup. I really do. That's first and foremost. You look at how bad they've been with runners in scoring position, even though they're at 500. Look at how bad we've identified this time in time. 1 for 9, 0 for 9, 2 for 8, 2 for 10, 1 for 10 stuff. You know what? Put him in that lineup and those numbers jump significantly.
Yeah. I just feel like it's already a win. It's already a win. Yeah. The fact that he was able to get back this quickly to DH is a win. And look, let's face it. The Phillies have been extremely fortunate that Major League Baseball changed the rules last year to universal DH. If there isn't a universal DH, you've lost him basically very early in last season. He may be able, considering he would have gotten the surgery that early, probably would have been able to start this year. But nonetheless, you're basically going to be able to get away with this with him missing only 30 games, and you had him for the entire playoff run.
Absolutely.
There's no sometimes good fortune shines on you.
Yeah, I know. I keep saying I know it's still early in the season, but I need to see this Phillies team start breaking out, putting a string together. I mean, 15-15 is better than being below sea level, but this roster, even without Harper, even with all the injuries they've had to navigate through, when you look at the way their schedule has played itself out, this team should be much better than 15-15. Now, as you talked about yesterday, they've won their last 4 series, but yet they're still sitting at sea level. It's a little bit longer than a month in the season. I get that. But this team has got to start asserting itself against certain teams. You can't go win 1 series, lose 1 series, win 3 in a row, lose 2 in a row. I mean, this team is better than that, even with what they've had to go through. And now is the time when you really got to start asserting yourself.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it is. It is. And I think the positive signs are the obvious one is getting Harper back, but also Nolan Wheeler in their last outing really looked like Nolan Wheeler. You're getting Ranger Suarez back relatively quickly. So that's also very big in this situation. And your bullpen is really settled down. Like your bullpen has done a nice job for you. So that's good.
Dude, look at the arms they have on the back end of their pitching staff. You have any collection of 4 guys that can come out, throw 97, 98 at any given moment. Now, Kimbrel, he got roughed up a little bit last night, but for the most part, he's been pretty good. We know what Alvarado has been already when he steps to the mound. He's like the old show, The Untouchables. It's any given guy that you can put on that back end now, which is a great luxury to have. They don't have to worry about a definitive closer because you can pick from one of 4 guys that can close for you at any given moment.
Yeah. Well said. And lively arms on the back end.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, just heaters and great electric kind of stuff. All right. So Doc Rivers says that the plan today, Derek, is to have Embiid do some running to see how the knee reacts. So they're going to have a better handle on that after he does some running. So he will do some skeleton work, as they call it. He's listed as doubtful for game 2. So they have him as doubtful, but they're going to see how he responds today to a little bit more of an increased, I'm not going to call it workload. He's not going to be scrimmaging, but he's going to be running at least, and they're going to see how the knee responds. It feels like this is, again, this is just gut. It feels like they're setting this thing up to which they'll never say, but because they won game 1, to buy him 1 more game, it feels like.
Well, I want to see if he's doing is he doing light running with or without a knee brace?
Don't know. I haven't none of the reports have said. I think that's just what Doc told them, but nobody's seen what he's done or doing yet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's huge because if he's going to have to wear a knee brace when he plays, he's got to get used to that now with a light jog. You got to get a feel for that thing. You're carrying extra weight. Even though these things, through the years have become more and more lightweight, it is cumbersome because it's an additional apparatus that you're not used to performing at the highest level with attached to you now. So that's why I was curious to find out, is he jogging with this brace on or without the brace on? And if it is, we don't know for sure, but if it is a grade 2 sprain, which is a slight tear, you got to jog with the brace on. You don't want to do anything to irritate that thing. You want to stabilize it as much as possible to have him available sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and you also want to simulate what it's going to be like in the game.
Yes,
like you got to get used to wearing that thing. And we know not everybody loves. Some guys can't handle wearing the mask when they have an injury to their nose or their eye, and or whatever. So, we'll see. That part's going to be very, very interesting for sure. All right, just swing it back to the Phillies, and then we'll get to the NFL stuff in 1 second here. But Taijuan Walker is concerning. There's a lot of things to be positive about, but he is concerning, Derek. So last 2 starts for him, and they're paying him a lot of money, by the way. Last 2 starts.
Yeah, they are.
7 1/3 innings, 13 runs, 5 home runs allowed. Last night, last 3 1/3, 8 hits, 8 runs, 3 home runs, and it took him 82 pitches just to get through 3 1/3. My man's not pulling his weight here.
Well, how bad is this? Is it a forearm strain or what is it? Is it?
That's what they called it. And that's a good point. That happened after his last outing, and they said he was, he felt fine after the next day.
Yeah, well, look how fine he felt last night because they teed off on him last night. And if it is a strain, to what degree is it affecting him? And I look at the volume of pitches he threw last night, 82 pitches in 3 1/3, and I'm thinking, well, Robbie, you said before the game you will watch him go through a series of pitches to determine whether or not how he's feeling, how long you want to leave him in there. I think it was obvious early on that did you really want him throwing 82 pitches in 3+ innings? at that point. Obviously, the strain was bothering him. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you hit it on the head when you said they're paying him a lot of money. But if he's not 100%, I can't put all of that on him because he's not at the top of his game right now. And you're doing him more harm than good by leaving him out there for an extended session, not in terms of innings, but more so in terms of the volume of pitches you're allowing him to throw.
Yeah, I wonder, again, I'm just speculating here, but was it two things? One, they didn't want to tap into the bullpen that early and just kill those guys, going forward, or were they trying to, I don't know, stretch him out a little bit and just kind of see where he was physically even more? I mean, it was clear, and I know a lot of people were so caught up in Sixers mania that they didn't even tune over to it, but I flipped over after the Sixers were over and he had nothing. I mean, and the Dodgers are a good hitting team, but the Dodgers were killing him. They were killing him. And it was just every, he had nothing. I don't know. Here's what wouldn't shock me. Once they get to the ballpark, and they're on the West Coast, so they won't be to the ballpark in a while. But once they get to the ballpark, that we hear potentially he might be shut down for a little while. Like nothing would surprise me as far as any kind of updates with Taijuan Walker. Again, we don't know right now. And I didn't hear anything after the game or read anything after the game.
Right. I didn't either.
So we'll end up seeing what ends up happening there. So, again, just to forward you what's coming out of Boston right now. So Doc said Joel Embiid is working out now, unsure of his Game 2 status, would still think doubtful, but that workout, the one that we just talked about, and how he responds to it is an important step. So that's the words coming exactly from Doc Rivers' mouth prior to practice today.
If I had to say so on the matter, he does not put on a uniform. He's out here. I'm saying that he's out now. There's no need for him. I mean, you could go up 2-0 on Boston without him. You won that all important game 1. You've overcome that psychological factor of we can't beat this team. You show that you can without the eventual MVP.
Right.
So the momentum is definitely in their court now. And, while you're thinking, okay, a split is great. If I'm Doc Rivers, all I'm preaching in practice today and tomorrow night before that game is we have a chance to go up 2-0 against a team that nobody thinks we can beat and then return home for the next 2.
Yeah. I mean, you're legitimately playing that underdog card.
Absolutely.
This team owned us during the regular season. We haven't gotten out of the second round in however many years. Last game, we hadn't won a first rounder since the 80s, guys. It's a lot of you guys weren't even born. So there's a lot to be said for that. And the other thing is Doc said after the game, he said, look, this team's just built a little bit different. They're streak fighters. And I told them, we get to this fourth quarter and it's close. It's our game. And they bought into it. Now, can you expect Harden to go crazy again? No. You need others to step up for sure. You need to defend better for the whole game, not just the second half. There's a lot of adjustments that need to be made. Boston's going to make adjustments. You know that. That's all a part of it. But I think I agree with you. I think the psyche and the confidence is there. It has to be there. And look, they're not thinking this way, but you and I know, even if you lose that game, you still accomplished your goal going.
Absolutely.
Getting 1 out of 2.
Coming home at 500 against this Boston team that's considered the best team in the NBA, the best team in the Eastern Conference, and you come back home with the next 2 games in your backyard with a split, that's a win-win for the team. And you can't emphasize it enough, without your big man in the middle, that's a win-win for us. Plus, we're buying the big man more time to hopefully get back on the court sooner over later. They got to be sky high right now with what they did, because they shocked the basketball world last night going into Boston as double-digit underdogs, and James Harden hitting that money shot from the top of the key at the most crucial point of a game. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and look, here's what it amounts to. I mean, we've been here before as a fan base going into the playoffs with a Lane Johnson. And you're saying to yourself, man, can he just get through these games? And that's really what it's going to come down to for Embiid, because he's not going to all of a sudden be healed. It's just going to be a lot of pain tolerance. And how much can he manage? And that's the other part. Doc's used to playing him a ton of minutes. Does Doc cut back the minutes? Or, is it all in? Hey, you're here, so you're playing. I don't know, man. You got to pick and choose your spots a little bit.
I think after watching the way this team rallied, and 8 players short and benched, rallied around the cause last night, I think even when Embiid comes back, it would be in Doc's best interest to rein in his minutes, seriously, and give him as much rest as possible between spurts. You know, your team has shown you, but as Amy said a little while ago, they went 12-5 without Embiid throughout the season.
Yeah.
Okay, and you just won a key pivotal game one at a crucial stage of a season. Rein in his minutes, as much rest as you can give him, especially if this series goes longer rather than shorter. The more rest you can give him, the more effective he can be for you if it comes down to a crucial game 7, especially in their house where you've already won.
Right. Yeah. Well said. Well said. And then that makes the drama, could make the drama for game 3 that much higher when it comes back here, if Embiid's able to go. All right. So as we mentioned, coming up, we'll dig back into the NFL, some tough stories, some interesting stuff there. We'll circle back to the Super Bowl viewing this past Super Bowl and how high it was, how it went through the roof. And we'll also dig into the biggest surprises in round 1. Could be positive, could be negative, some trends, some different things we're seeing here. And I think certainly, the Eagles would be included in this as well. A little later, we'll get into the NBA playoffs a little bit further. Nuggets taking care of business last night. Tonight, the Heat Knicks, and then the Lakers Warriors. That's game 1 out west for those two teams. We'll get into that. We got birthdays. We got movies, so don't go anywhere. We got all those things in store for you when we come back. And like I said, we always swing it back to some Eagles as well. All right, that's Derek. I'm Rob. We'll get a quickie in here. We'll come back. We'll do some NFL. Right now, I want to talk a little bit about Flynn Tree Services. Yes, Flynn Tree Services is an experienced, licensed, and insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted trees off of your property. They offer cost-effective solutions to any tree problem that you may face. So ask yourself the question, are there any type of tree issues in the yard, on my property, my front, whatever the case may be? If you do have any, they're just a quick phone call away. They're experts at trimming all types of trees, and they service southeastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, and northern Delaware. Flynn Tree Services specializes in tree removal, stump grinding, as well as tree pruning. Now, keep in mind, we're in a pretty good little stretch here weather-wise. In our area, we got a lot of rain, but that could be, portend to what the summer is going to be like with some hard rain, some winds, which could potentially, do some damage there if any branches or trees come down on your house. So you want to get ahead of that, get your trees evaluated now. In fact, you can go to their Instagram or Facebook page for more information or a sampling of their work. Give Flynn Tree Services a call at 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at flynntreeservices.com. That's flynntreeservices.com.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
We're back. Yes, we are. Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. We are hanging. It is May 2nd. That is Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis Barrett out on the golf course during taking part in the Brian Dawkins charity golf event, which, Derek, I know you played a big role in helping to get off the ground and organize.
Yeah.
If you wanted to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, Doc started this foundation with the goal of helping schools in his hometown, Jacksonville, and the Philadelphia area. We had Brian on last week, and he talked about how it's over 25 schools now, most of which are in the Philadelphia area, where they're helping with mental wellness. I think a lot of us don't realize the struggles that kids are going through in schools nowadays. And it's not just getting grades, it's fitting in. I mean, think about it, Rob. When we went to school, all we did was went to school, went to class, play sports, went to gym. We didn't have to worry about a lot of the social things and that kids go through nowadays, trying to fit in, the bullying that goes on. In a whole situation, kids being told they're not going to amount to anything. His program is there to open doors of opportunity to a lot of young people, to build them up, to help them deal with depression and anxiety is run amok in this country like never before, like we've seen. Maybe it was there before, it just wasn't talked about the way it is now. So, Dawkins Foundation, obviously people gravitate towards Brian Dawkins because of his name and what he has meant to this community in the Philadelphia area and into his hometown of Jacksonville. But when you look at the cause behind it, it's hard to say no to a cause like this when you're trying to help the future of America get ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. We live in a time that is the most volatile, unpredictable, both economically and socially, that we've ever lived in. And I see it getting worse before it gets better. And we have to equip our young people today to combat these things on all fronts, in the workforce, in the home, just dealing with the inner struggles, the demons that they deal with internally in a lot of cases. The Lane Johnson, there's so many Lane Johnsons out there we don't even know about, even in professional sports. Look at what Brian Dawkins went through, and he still fights that battle today. Yeah. Look at what Lane Johnson went through. He still fights that battle today. So think about the multitude of kids in schools that don't have someone to help them along the way, to guide them, to pick them up when they fall, to be a positive influence in their lives. And this is what Brian Dawkins' program is all about, and it just continues to expand.
Very well said, Derek. Very well said. And thanks for the work that you do. For
unfortunately, I couldn't be there this year because of commitments I have. I was supposed to be there yesterday and today. Right. And number one, once I found out Barrett was playing, I didn't want to leave my man Rob Ellis here alone. And number two, I have a big meeting. I'm on the board of two different churches, and so I have to be there for a big meeting tonight to settle some issues. So, well said. So I really miss it because I get a chance to see all the old players. Last year was great hanging out with the John Runyons, Jeremiah Trotters, Ike Reese, all these guys, that I covered for so many years. And we just said that, and even Donovan, I don't know if he's there this year, but Donovan was there last year. Mm-hmm. I do know, I just saw a tweet. So Ron Jaworski is out there. Nice. So many people gravitate and support Ron Jaworski's golf outing. Jaworski's another one that does so much for kids in this community, just tons. And so he's out there supporting Brian Dawkins in his golf outing as well. So anytime Brian Dawkins calls, people come running.
Well said. Well said. Okay. So let's hit a couple things here, Derek. And by the way, EJ Smith will be joining us tomorrow, who does an awesome job covering the Birds for the Philadelphia Inquirer. So we're looking forward to talking with EJ tomorrow. And we'll obviously get you set for the Sixers, game 2. There's no question about that. All right, let's start. Let's hit this one, Derek, and move on to some better stuff. But we got to put this out there. So Henry Ruggs, you remember the receiver?
Yeah,
who was a rookie last year.
Yep.
Yeah, with the Raiders out of Alabama. He has pleaded guilty in a fatal DUI case, which sadly killed a young lady. He's waived his right to a preliminary hearing on Tuesday, will plead guilty to 1 count of DUI resulting in death and 1 count of misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter in that 2021 case. And he's accused of, killing the woman in the car accident. According to a plea agreement Tuesday in Las Vegas Justice Court, he will serve 3 to 10 years in Nevada State Prison. The case now moves on to the 8th Judicial District Court for a May 10th hearing when he's expected to plead formally guilty. This is the first step toward a fair resolution, says his attorney. Now, the judge does not have to accept that. If he does not accept that, he can change his plea for whatever it's worth. Not to get into the semantics of this thing.
Right.
He's probably looking at 3 to 10 years somewhere.
I mean, he's what, 22, 23 years old? And this is something that will be ingrained in his mind for a lifetime. It's affected him. More importantly, it's affected an innocent family who lost their daughter, which is a tragedy. It's something that happens in our country time and time again. We see these unnecessary tragic accidents, people careless behind the wheel for whatever the reason may be, drinking behind the wheel, drugged up behind the wheel. I don't know how many more PSAs we can put out there, how many more instances we can see before people get it. Rob, you and I, we drive up and down the highway every day. Yep. And we still see people zipping in and out between cars, no regard for life, if not their own, for the other people that just want to get from point A to point B as safe as possible. When these things happen, it not only affects you 9 times out of 10, you're affecting another family as well.
Yeah. Well said.
I feel bad for the young man, but the fact that he stood up, he didn't cry not guilty. He's accepting his punishment. His dream is over. He spent all of his life wanting to get to the NFL. His dream is over, but I think he did the right thing in terms of standing up and being a man about it and saying, you know what, this is on me and I have to face the consequences.
Yep. Well said.
Yeah.
All right. So that's kind of where that is. And if we, hear anything when this all goes down, we'll let you know. All right. Beyond that, happier times here. So the New York Jets, Derek, some people said, well, why would you trade for a 40-year-old quarterback? What are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. Well, no matter how it works out on the field, and I actually think they're going to be a good team.
I agree.
Yeah. No matter how it works out on the field, the New York Jets have increased their season ticket and luxury suite sales 400%. 400% from where things were before they made the trade with Aaron Rodgers. So from a financial standpoint, it was a genius move without question already. I mean, that's the impact he has.
Well, we talk about he's 40 years old, but this is a 40-year-old man who still has one of the strongest and most accurate arms in the game. Is he a diva? Yes, but the Jets are willing to put up with that because think about it. When was the last time the Jets had a quarterback close to the caliber of an Aaron Rodgers?
Yep.
This team is loaded on both sides of the football. Their time is now in terms of, knocking Buffalo off the pedestal as king of the hill in the AFC East, doing damage in the playoffs. If they can keep Aaron Rodgers upright and breathing, and now they don't have to be the second fiddle to the Giants in the Big Apple.
That's a big part of this.
When was the last time that happened?
Yeah.
Think about the merchandise sales alone, Rob. The jerseys, Aaron Rodgers jersey sales, the concessions, people now flocking to get tickets, as you just mentioned. Get tickets just to go see this dude play and be proud of being a Jets fan again. It's been a long time since this has happened, man.
No, I agree. And people who live in towns where there's multiple teams in one sport get this, but we live in a town where it's just the Eagles, just the Phillies, Flyers, Sixers. It's a big deal to the Jets organization and Jets fans that they constantly feel like they're second-class citizen. And the Rodgers thing, despite the Giants moving in the right direction too, the Rodgers thing, at least for right now, maybe for the wrong reasons, but we'll see, puts them on the map ahead of the Giants at least right now. On the back page of the paper, as they used to say.
I expect the Jets to be at least 5 primetime games this year. At least. That's a minimum. Probably more, but at least 5 primetime games. I saw a video this morning on Twitter. I forgot who posted it. They showed a shot. Aaron Rodgers, they're in their voluntary workouts, steps back and zips one over the middle to Garrett Wilson. And I'm thinking, man, that's just scratching the surface of what's to come with that combination, dude.
Yeah.
And you look at the other weapons they've surrounded themselves with. My goodness. This Jets team, if I'm Buffalo and if I'm New England and Miami, I'm scrambling right now. Hey, we got to do something to shore up defense. We got to do something to add firepower and offense because there's a new kid on the block.
Yeah.
There's a new threat on the block right now.
And he has help. He is not alone. There are talented players on that team on both sides of the ball. They've done it. Joe Douglas has done a nice job, putting that thing together, acquiring picks and getting the picks right. He had about as good a draft as you could have last year.
Oh, my goodness. What did he have? The offensive and defensive rookies of the year?
Yeah. Yeah.
On both sides of the
Garrett
ball
Wilson,
last year?
Yeah. And Sauce Gardner. And then, Breece Hall, who was on his way to being in the contention and in the conversation with offensive rookie of the year before he got hurt. Yeah.
Jeez.
Heck of a job, man.
I'm just looking at their weapons right now. Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, Denzel Mims, Alan Lazard, Mecole Hardman. Aaron Rodgers never had that in Green Bay. He had Devontae Adams, but he never had a plethora of weapons like that.
Yeah.
And then you go to the tight end, CJ Uzomah. I mean, seriously?
Yeah.
You got a good offensive line. You look at the defensive talent they have. Dude, this team is built to do damage right now.
No question. No question. And look, they're in a tough division. Nobody denies that. But they're going to be competitive and they're going to be fun to watch. And I think Rodgers is going there with something to prove. He's a little bit ticked off in some ways. So that if you're the Jets, you like that. That's a good thing. Keep him a little bit motivated for sure.
Now, obviously, the Jets are going to have to put up with some of his antics and his wants. And, what's funny, and I said this, I believe it was back in March. Somebody posted, now that Aaron Rodgers is gone, Matt LaFleur can run his offense. See, the offense that Green Bay was running was not Matt LaFleur's total offense because I see more RPOs coming in that offense with Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers, you can't run RPOs with Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have that kind of speed to run the RPOs.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron Rodgers is going to have his kind of offense now that Nathaniel Hackett is overseeing it in New York. So I expect to see a much different offenses from both teams coming out in 2023.
Yeah, I hear you. Speaking of that, so staying on that same page here, the Packers have extended Jordan Love 1 year, which, look, I think is the right move here. He was going in what could have potentially been going into the last year of that deal. It benefits both sides. I'll let you explain the Packer side of it, but I'll just, from a Love standpoint, it's like, I don't have to do everything all at once.
Right,
I can grow into the role as a starter in the NFL this year without looking over my shoulder constantly to the point where I may be gone next year.
Right.
So I think it's a smart way to go. But you have the financial end of this thing and how it benefits the Packers as well.
Yeah, but basically it's a win-win for the Packers and Jordan Love. I mean, he's going to get this front money. Basically, he just got like $14.5 million in guaranteed money for a quarterback that's still unproven. And number two, next year with this $22 million deal, even if he stinks up the place, but more importantly, if he turns out to be great, Green Bay doesn't have to go back and negotiate a new deal for him and pay him astronomical money. It's a cap-friendly deal for Green Bay. They're going to have a lot of cap space next year. Now, granted, they're going to have some key players they're going to have to address like any team does every year in terms of who do we keep from our potential free agents. But with the cap going up at least $10 million next year, and Green Bay having a starting quarterback on the low end of the financial volume, it's a win-win for both sides. Jordan Love just got paid big. I think he was supposed to make close to $5 million this year, around $5 million. Well, with the bonus money, he's going to get the signing bonus or whatever, however they structure it. It goes up to like 14 plus million in guaranteed money. And Green Bay has a quarterback under a very, very manageable cap situation. So next year during the offseason, if they decide to attack free agency based on what they want to do, who's gone, who's staying, they'll have a lot more wiggle room to do it.
Yeah, well said. For sure. I agree with you. So I think it's a smart move. That's a good organizational move there by the Packers. Yeah, he'll make 22.5 in the extension year. So we mentioned earlier that Super Bowl 57, the Eagles Super Bowl where they lost to the Chiefs 38-35, drew 115.1 million people, Derek. That's 2 more million than the previous high. And that's just for any telecast. So football is big business, as we see. We see the increase that Rodgers brings to the Jets. We see with the television dollars where they're going there with that many people locked in. It is it's pretty remarkable, what's going on.
Well, there. You can add to that also over 312,000. Think about this. Over 312,000 people were in Kansas City for the draft, for the 3 days of the draft. Jeez. 312,000 in Kansas City, not a warm weather city like Phoenix, Miami, Tampa, in Kansas City this time of year for the draft. Yeah. That should tell you. Think about the volume of people that were here for the NFL draft.
Right.
312,000 in Kansas City for the draft?
That is unbelievable. Yeah.
That just goes to show you. You talk about the NFL being a big business, a money-making cash cow. Who came up with the concept of opening up a draft to the general fan base to the point where not only your home fan base converges on it, but fans from all across the country go there? It's like a quick 3-day vacation for a lot of people. How many multitudes of jerseys do you see? It's just like all 32 teams are represented at a draft. Now, granted, some of those people might live in those cities who are fans of other teams, but there's a big volume of people that come from across the country and even from different parts of the world just to be a part of this.
Yeah, you're right. It's amazing. It's amazing what it's become. All right, so I don't know if you heard about this. Antonio Brown apparently bought a piece of a football team. Did you see this?
Oh, geez. Yeah.
The Albany Empire. So he bought last month. He assumed 95% ownership of the Albany Empire, an indoor football team. So according to the Albany Times, Abigail Rubel, who wrote the story, reported on Monday the players hadn't been paid since April 21st. On Monday, the head coach, Damon Ware, left the team over lack of payment. Meanwhile, players have been suspended due to an incident on the team bus following a game in North Carolina. The Albany police responded early Monday morning to a report of aggravated harassment arising from an alleged incident on the bus. This thing's a disaster. Their acting president claims it's a lack of payment was due to an issue with a payroll processor. Okay. It just feels like anything he gets near, Gunner, is just a absolute chaos. Absolute chaos. And here we go again.
Is this a team that is a spitting image of the owner of the team?
Yes.
You see, that's bad. That's bad business right there. Because moving forward, who's going to want to play for you, man?
Nobody.
I mean,
quickest way to lose people is to not pay them on time.
Exactly. There you go.
Quickest way to lose people. Yep.
There you go.
To lose people.
I think if he keeps this team, he needs to and I don't know what kind of money flow they have. He needs to put somebody in place who knows how to run day-to-day operations of a sports team.
Yeah, business.
Step back, yes, and let them run it. That's the only way that thing survives.
Absolutely. All right, beyond that, the Ravens have declined the 5th-year option on Patrick Queen. Derek, I thought he was going to be a stud. He's just not played up to what we all thought he was going to be coming out of LSU. He's just been a guy.
His rookie year was pretty good, but beyond that, he's declined. He's continuously declined through the years. Is it the scheme?
Maybe
affects him.
Maybe he needs a change of scenery. I don't know. He was talented, man. Really talented coming out of LSU. I don't know.
I thought he was going to be a beast at the pro level. I honestly did.
Yeah. The Broncos do pick up the 5th-year option on Jerry Jeudy. They were talking. Yeah, smart. They were going to potentially trade him. And Sean Payton from the jump was like, "We're not trading these guys. We're going to get Russell right and get this offense right, and these guys are going to contribute to it for us." And Denver's going to be one. Definitely like an eye on kind of team,
As good as Sean Payton's Saints teams were, he never had this kind of depth at wide receiver.
Yes.
When he was with the Saints, and he's got a quarterback that can be resurrected. The fact that Russell Wilson so readily agreed to not have his personal quarterback guy there, didn't make a stink about it, tells me that Russell is on a mission to prove that last year was a fluke.
Yeah.
Russell is all about winning. Every level he's played at. He played at North Carolina State, got Wisconsin to the Big Ten championship game. Look at the measure of success he had. Walked in as a 3rd-round pick of Seattle, assumed the starting role right away, took him to Super Bowls. Russell Wilson is all about winning. And he's got enough talent from offensive line, receivers, running back to change the complexion and the attitude of that team in a hurry. And when your leader is on board right away, there's no hemming and hawing, nothing leaking about Russell buckled at not having his quarterback guy there. It tells me Russell wants to win. He's with a coach who knows about winning. He's surrounded by a winning entity, great talent. I can't wait to see what this Broncos team looks like under Sean Payton.
Yeah, same here. All right, let's look back at the first round here.
Yeah.
And again, we can dip into the Eagles a little bit here and whether they're involved in this, but there were some surprises along the way. I will say this. I know you really liked Devin Witherspoon the whole time.
No question.
From Illinois. But most folks had Christian Gonzalez, the Oregon corner, going before him. This one's interesting. So Witherspoon goes 5 to the Seahawks. Yep. Gonzalez lasts all the way to 17 for the Patriots. That's a head scratcher. That was one that kind of caught your attention right away.
And not only that, not only did he dip to 17, but right before him, a cornerback who weighs $179 soaking wet, who was never really mentioned as one of the top 3 cornerbacks in the draft, emerges in Washington right before him.
Yeah.
And that surprised me.
Forbes.
Yeah. Forbes for Mississippi State goes before him. So I'm thinking, okay, if Witherspoon's off the board, it was always 1 or 2, 2 and 1 between those two. How did he slide to 3?
Right.
And what did Washington see in Forbes that they didn't like in Gonzalez? Gonzalez was universally considered the best pro prospect among cornerbacks in the NFL.
This is where I would love to be a fly on the wall. Whether they didn't interview well, whether there's something we don't know about, whatever. Yeah. I don't know. But those two were surprising. And the thing with Forbes is he definitely has a nose for the ball. The amount of pick sixes and interceptions he has. So he's a very skinny guy. That holding up in that league, even if you're not playing offense at that weight, is going to be a challenge.
Absolutely. Now he can run like a deer, but can he sustain the rigors of hitting and coming up and make tackles? Well, see, I don't know much about him other than he can run with anybody in the league. He can stop on a dime just like a receiver. He can change directions. He has all the physical attributes. A pick like that, to me, means Washington is looking for a future shutdown corner. Now, he's going to have to put on a little weight to stay on the field and not in the tub. But he has all the attributes to be that kind of shutdown corner in the passing game. But can he come up and run support? What kind of tackler is he? That's what we have to wait to see.
$1 million question. All right, I don't know. Would you put this in the category of surprise or not? Bijan going at 8 to the Falcons. Is that about what you expected? Or
we saw how high Saquon went, but Bijan, Barrett was on it. Barrett thought he would go in the top 10, top 9, and he did. For phenomenal talent, and as much as running backs are devalued in the NFL as of late, I was shocked that he went number 8 to Atlanta. But obviously Atlanta had a need for a running back. He's a marquee talent. He's going to draw fans. People are going to come in just to see what this kid is all about because we've all heard so much about him. But I thought he was shocked. I thought he would slip somewhere 12, 13, 8, and 15. But Atlanta, which has done a tremendous job this offseason of rebuilding that defense, obviously needs some offensive firepower with a young quarterback assuming the helm of this team. So we're going to find out. Is he a workhorse? Is he a sporadic player? What is he to Atlanta? We're going to find out soon enough.
Yeah, no question. All right, so he goes there. But this one I think would definitely fit in the category of surprise. So at 12, the Lions take Jahmyr Gibbs. I expected him to either be late 1 or early 2. I thought maybe the Eagles would consider him at 30, or if they trade it down into the second round, they grab him there. 12, I did not see coming, especially after they just signed Montgomery. And at that point, DeAndre Swift's still on the team.
I consistently kept him anywhere from 26 to 31. Just the way what we know about the needs of other teams and the way running backs fall in a draft. The fact that he went that high, and then Detroit turns around and trades DeAndre Swift. You know, you basically drafted a similar type of running back, you know, and you got rid of a proven commodity. Okay, so we understand they have the injury history. But I was thinking, boy, you put those two in the backfield together, they're dynamite. Now, and then we forget about the fact, well, they already had they went out and got, David Montgomery. They picked up another back as well. So obviously they had grown weary of Swift. Now, granted, he's missed at least 3 games every year he's been in the league, but when he's on the field, kid is electric. No question about it. I thought that pick was a head scratcher to me at that point.
I was surprised too. But no, hey, look, he's a guy who's got great versatility, can catch the ball, can run the ball. So we'll see how that works out. All right. I don't know, surprise, but it was interesting. 4 straight receivers after waiting forever, all the way to number 20 before any of them went. We got to run on 4 straight there. I think it speaks to a couple things. One, it's a down year with the receiver position. Usually these guys go a lot higher than this. But the fact that it lasted all the way till 20 till any of them started going. So here's the order in which they went, Derek. Jackson, Smith, and Jigba goes to Seattle at 20 out of Ohio State. Chargers take Quentin Johnson, wide receiver out of TCU. Zay Flowers goes to the Ravens at 22. At 23, the Vikings take Jordan Addison, receiver out of USC. They went bop.
Well, when you look at the 4 in a row, all 4 went to teams that needed pass catching help. You put in Jigba in there with Tyler Lockett and the receivers there in Seattle, going to be a great addition. Chargers needed a receiver. Baltimore needed a receiver to stretch the field. Minnesota needed a receiver to replace Adam Thielen. But I can't remember a draft, Rob, where the wide receiver position was as little talked about as it was this offseason in terms of frontline game-changing type wide receivers. These are supposedly good receivers, but there's not a wow factor like a Justin Jefferson type receiver among the group. So I'm really intrigued to see which one steps to the forefront. You look at where Jigba went with Seattle. He doesn't have to be the man because of who's in front of him. Minnesota, Addison doesn't have to be the man because of who's on the other side and because of the way the Vikings run their offense. Zay Flowers, a little bit different situation. He's going to be expected to be to have an immediate impact because Baltimore has been so devoid of wide receiving talent. And the same thing with the Chargers. The Chargers needed another big-time pass catcher to help their overall passing game with Justin Herbert. So 2 of the 4 are going to have to go in and produce right away.
All right. So there are a couple little odds and ends. Now, the tight ends, you had 2 of them fall further than people thought. Dalton Kincaid, the kid out of Utah, last all the way to 25. Nice job by the Bills grabbing him there. You can team him up with Dawson Knox. That's a nice combo. Michael Mayer last into the second round where the Raiders grabbed him. Both of them were projected as kind of like mid-first rounders, and they lasted either late or out of it altogether.
Well, not only that, you can go one step further. Up until, I'd say, a week before the draft, Joey Porter was considered a lock to go in the first round. Now, he went 32nd, which technically is a first-round pick, but this year there was only 31 picks because Miami forfeited their pick. But Joey Porter sliding all the way out of the first round was a shock to me as well. I thought Mayer would be at least a middle round, first round pick. The kid's that talented. I was shocked that he lasted until 35 on the board. Raiders got themselves a nice pickup at 35 with this kid.
Yeah, really good move there. All right, a couple other surprises here. Maybe, depends on how you look at it. This ties into what we were just talking about. The Cowboys taking Mazzie Smith rather than one of the tight ends. Look, I think I understand this to an extent. You got to kind of protect Micah Parsons a little bit, and they hadn't done a very good job with that from the interior. So I get it from that standpoint. I'm surprised they didn't go maybe flashier with a tight end.
I am too, considering they lost Schultz to Houston. But what is the one thing that Dallas had a problem with? As good as they were in terms of putting pressure on quarterbacks, one of the things they had a problem with was consistently stopping the run. They were giving up 130 yards a game, stopping the run.
Yep.
So this kid is a big body at 325 pounds and supposedly pretty agile in terms of gap control. So we're going to see. But I thought, if anything, Dak Prescott needed another big-time weapon on the offense. You know, you could have got another big body D tackle in the latter rounds. You know, we here on the East Coast are kind of snickering at what Dallas decided to do. Well, let's see how this kid plays out. See how he plays out.
All right. Last but not least, and again, if there's any others you want to throw in there, go ahead. But Nolan Smith lasting to 30, I'm still trying to figure that out.
That's ridiculous.
It's really, really surprising.
It's really ridiculous. That one. I'm still scratching my head on. But then again, Rob, we see this every year in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
You know, players that are projected to go in the top 15 slide for whatever reason, and a lot of times it's not even some off-field stuff. Our evaluations on the outside looking in turn out to be a lot different than those who do all the homework, look at all the film, do the plus and minuses, check the pluses, minuses off the board. But him falling into the Eagles' lap where he did at 30, my goodness, you talking about a Christmas gift. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Sitting here shocked with this one.
Anything else jump out at you?
Yeah, B.J. Ojolari. I thought he was a legit first-round pick. Linebacker out of LSU.
Yeah,
great talent. Kamikaze, puts his nose in there, blows up offensive lines. Him dropping to Arizona where he did it, 45, I believe it was. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Really? When you consider some of the people that were taken in the first round, I'm not even going to talk about, who being taken in the first round by Green Bay. Don't get me started with that one again.
Yeah.
But that's still.
Your guy, Lucas Van Ness. I got to get you a
God.
jersey,
Oh,
man.
my
That's
God.
yes.
You buy me a jersey, Rob. I love you to death. I'm telling you right now, it will be in my fireplace.
You'll use it for for one of the grills.
Yeah, exactly. Now maybe he'll prove me wrong, and maybe I'll go out and buy one later. But as of right now, I'm still sick over that one.
I got you. I got you. All right. All right. We'll come back. We'll dip our foot back into the NBA pool. Maybe we'll revisit the Sixers as they gear up for Game 2 tomorrow night. But we do have a Game 2 between the Heat and the Knicks. Lakers and Warriors with their first one. We'll tell you what went on last night with the Nuggets as they handled the Suns. We'll do birthdays. We'll do movies. All that in store. Don't go anywhere. That's Derek. I am Rob. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. All right, let's talk about Razor technology because data is everywhere in business today. But when it's locked away in silos, it can't be efficiently used, and businesses don't have time to wait for the insights that shape decision-making. Razor Technologies data management not only integrates data from wherever it's generated or collected, but provides a uniform structure for storing, interpreting, and distributing it to decision makers. Razor helps businesses transform and model their data, use it to populate real-time dashboards, and create shareable reports that highlight key areas of progress as well as warning signs in need of attention. Smart data analytics and the tools to make data insights easily digestible help businesses of all sizes and types discover where they can be untapping significant savings. Razor Technology can help you break down your silos and fully realize your value to your data and drive your growth to your business. To learn more, contact Razor Technology today at 866-797-3282, 866-797-3282, or visit them online at razor-tech.com. That's razor-tech.com.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
We are back. We are our Sports Day, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Derek and Rob hanging out. Barrett will be back tomorrow, and we will also have EJ Smith from the Philadelphia Inquirer. We'll talk some birds with EJ tomorrow. All right, so Derek, a couple things NBA wise. Nuggets behind the Joker go up 2-0 on the Suns. He had 39 and 16 to go with 5 assists and 2 steals. He was clearly the more aggressive form of himself, simply because Jamal Murray was a little bit off last night. Other guys weren't hitting the shots that you're accustomed to. And he said, you know what? I got to score myself here, and did. And the Suns had no answers for him. You muted, Derek.
Denver is a fun team to watch. But like I said, when Amy was on, I'm still not sold on Denver. I don't know why, but they're a fun team to watch. But you're right. You know what? When you watch the Joker, he is slow, methodical. But when he's on his game, you can't stop him. You know, he's got that little, you know, that one leg flip up jumper that he shoots all the time is unstoppable. He's not quick to the basket at all, but he's a good passer. He's where he's supposed to be at all times. He's a good rebounder. But, man, you talk about slow as pond water. Oh, my goodness. But you know what? He's a phenomenal talent. Hey, Larry Bird wasn't the fastest guy on the court, but Larry Bird was deadly. You know, Larry Bird. And in the joke, and I'm not comparing him to Larry Bird, but I'm just saying in today's game, when speed is so prominent in today's NBA game, this dude, man, when he's on his game, you look up all of a sudden, wait a minute, he scored 35?
Yeah.
You don't even notice that he scored 35 until somebody mentions it.
Mm-hmm. No question. And it was one of those games last night. And, you know, here's the other thing. If you're Phoenix, and I realize this is going back to Phoenix, so it's, you know, a different story here. But, you know, if you're them, Chris Paul, again, you know, not being able to hold up is a big deal. And it's something that's haunted him in years past. So, you know, depending on what his status is going forward, I mean, you know, and Durant 2 for 12 from 3 last night. They didn't get a ton out of anybody else. I mean, Booker certainly held his own, as he usually does. But Derek, you realize they got 4 points off their bench.
I know. You know, and I feel for Chris Paul, man. You know, here's a guy who's been in the league 17 years, has never had that joy of hoisting a trophy. It doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. And I thought when they got Durant out there, that would be the game changer for Phoenix. And watching the way they've played the first 2 games against Denver, even when Paul was in there before he got hurt, it's not going to happen for them this year. And that's a shame that you go through more than close to 2 decades of doing what you love to do and never getting that one shining moment to hoist that trophy, man. I feel for him.
I hear you. Tonight, two good ones tonight. We got game 2 of the Heat and the Knicks. Gunner, this one, game 1 on Sunday. The Heat came back to beat the Knicks. Butler came up big. They really got contributions from a lot of different people. Kyle Lowry stepped up. Kevin Love stepped up, you know, et cetera. So they end up winning And this, look, you're in New York. Knicks better get this one. You do not want to be going back to Miami 0-2.
Is Jimmy Buckets playing tonight?
We haven't seen any kind of status update on Buckets. I haven't seen anything that he isn't. I know that was a bad ankle turn. We've seen this kind of thing in the, anybody who played basketball has dealt with that, but this one even looked bad by those standards. A little bit more.
Eric Spoelstra has been really vague when he's been asked about it. He was asked about it yesterday. Been very vague. Basically, all he said was, still the same. He's doing treatments 24 hours. I don't think he's going to play, and I don't know if Miami can win game 2 without him.
Yeah.
For as much as they've got, I'll tell you what, you look at when they brought in Kevin Love, when they picked him up, you talk about opening up defenses with his ability to shoot from beyond the arc. And when you look at how they put Milwaukee in the grave and look at how they got past the Knicks the first game, dude, they've got a collection of players. Anybody can step up at any given moment and just get hot. But Jimmy is the catalyst behind that. If Jimmy doesn't play tonight, they're in trouble.
I wonder how much, they sort of view it the same way that maybe some Sixers fans are thinking too. It's like, I already got game 1. Let's give this guy tonight, buy him a little bit of time until game 3 going back there. It almost looks like you're conceding in some ways, but still, it's, that might be the route that they go rather than have him re-aggravated or make it worse out there.
Yeah, if that ankle is that bad, there's no way you put him back out on the court, because then you run the risk of not having him for the all-important games 3 and 4 back at your own place. Give him the extra times. It's like the Sixers. You play house money. Nobody expects you to go in and take the first game from the Knicks. Now you're sitting in the driver's seat. You get a split, you give them a few extra days, then you go home and you crank it up again.
All right, let's go to the nightcap here. The Lakers at the Warriors. Golden State is -4.5. Lakers playing very well right now. But I would be very afraid if I were other teams regarding the Warriors, because I think they've sort of found themselves.
They had the best home record in the league for a reason. And what Steph Curry did that last game was vintage Steph Curry.
Yep.
And when they play at home, and that was with Klay Thompson having an off night, and now at home, I think this is going to be a good, fun series to watch. It's going to get physical at times. When you have Draymond Green on the floor, anything and everything is possible. But I think Golden State wins this series. I think Golden State finally got the wake-up call, and they're getting back to that form that won that NBA title last year. The fact that they got rid of that jinx of not winning on the road, and they win 2 huge games on the road against a very good Sacramento team, and they blow Sacramento off their own court in the deciding game 7. I think Golden State's finally got that wake-up call.
Yeah, I think so too. And look, that pedigree, not that the Lakers don't have it. They've had guys who have won it. LeBron certainly first and foremost, and Anthony Davis won one when they were in the bubble. But there's just too many guys on that Golden State team, that they can lean on. The other thing with Golden State, I wonder too is, I know Steph's still playing at an unbelievable level, but they got to realize, man, we don't have too many more of these. This could be it. Steve Kerr may walk away at some point. Draymond, how many years does he have left there? Clay and Steph playing together, could that be coming to an end? They may look at it that way also.
What more does Steve Kerr have to prove as a coach? He's won 6 rings, 3 as a player, 3 as a head coach. What more does he have to prove? It's not about the money. It's not about the hardware. For him, it's just the love. It's the love of coaching. And as we both know, as much as you love to do something, eventually you get bored with it and want to move on with something else in life. Whether it's just ride off into the sunset and spend more time with family, or just sit back and regroup for a year or 2 and decide whether or not you want to come back and take on an even newer challenge, trying to build a team into a championship contender.
Yeah. And so the other NBA story of the day is, tonight the MVP will be announced. And, Sixers fans obviously hoping that's Joel Embiid. But the Dylan Brooks thing in Memphis. So he's a free agent, and you had a bunch of run-ins his whole career. He's a guy who plays on the edge, and he's considered by many a dirty player, but he also talks a lot. And in this last series in which they got eliminated by the Lakers, a lot of talking to LeBron James. In fact, basically said, I don't respect anybody unless they put 40 on me and blah, blah, blah. And then it was either yesterday or the day before, he met with the media and said, I'm not backing down one bit. I meant what I said. I play with an edge. This is who I am, etc. So Shams Charania today puts out a tweet basically saying that under no circumstances will Dylan Brooks be welcomed back as a Memphis Grizzly, which was a little bit of just a turn the screw in there on top of everything else. So that was you don't see that many times from an organization. It's usually thanks and all the best. Good luck.
I said it earlier in the show, Rob, and I'll reiterate it again. I don't remember ever in any sport hearing about an organization being as concrete about parting ways with a player as that statement put out by Sham stated, especially the way it was wording. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, buts, gray area, nothing. You will never be with this organization again, And usually, even when teams feel that way,
right,
they usually put it very professionally and delicately to wish a former player well in your future endeavors. Unfortunately, things didn't work out here, but we thank you for your contributions to what they said. Look here, man. We couldn't wait to get rid of you. It couldn't come soon enough to get rid of you.
Yeah, we were all like, okay, yeah, thankfully. But it does tell you, like, it wasn't just him ticking off the other team. He was ticking off his own team as well. So he is out of there. That's for sure. All right, let's do some birthdays, and then we'll get it back to some of the stuff we were discussing a little bit earlier. First and foremost, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, 51. What a multimedia, just unbelievable what this guy has turned into, Derek. I mean, acting, obviously the wrestling success, but as a businessman, he's a producer. What is he at the XFL or the USFL? Which one is he?
I think it's the XFL.
XFL. This guy, everything he touches turns to gold. It's incredible.
And the latest Fast and Furious movie is coming out. I believe this is the last installment. It's coming out in May. He turned himself into this incredible action hero, built himself into a very prominent role player with the WWF, WWE. You're right, Rob. He's got that Midas touch. Everything he touches just turns up money, straight money. And considering he was only a marginal player, a football player in college, I believe a knee injury derailed his football career.
Yeah, played at Miami.
Yeah. Incredible turnaround. And he talks about how he was only an average student in school, how many times his family moved around when he was a kid coming up.
Yeah.
Man, you talk about the rags to riches story. This dude is living it and then some.
Yeah, his dad was a pro wrestler who did okay. Like he wasn't Hulk Hogan. He was a guy who survived more than anything else. And that's what they would like. The Rock grew up in Lehigh area, Bethlehem, I believe, area. Moved a lot. They were in Hawaii at one point, whatever. He jumped around a lot, and the guy works his tail off, man. I give him a lot of props. Bend it like Beckham, David Beckham, 48 years young. Another guy who transcended his sport, went on to have ownership stakes in soccer clubs, commercials, obviously a good looking dude. He's had a lot of success with the high profile wife, Spice Girls and all that stuff. So he's done pretty well for himself. David Beckham, 48. Ellie Kemper, who was an actress on The Office, among other things. She's been in a lot of movies as well. 43 years old today. Christine Baranski, actress, done a lot of like sitcom work, is 71 years old today.
Yeah, she plays the insensitive mom on Big Bang Theory. She is funny, man.
Yeah, she's good. She is a very good comedic actress, for
absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. Paul George is 33 years old today. Clipper. Donatella Versace is 68 today. She assumed leadership of the Versace brand when her brother was killed, sadly. Yeah. So she's taking that thing over.
It's funny. Anytime I hear the word Versace, it automatically triggers when the word was used in one of the Friday movies, when the brother was talking about, hey, man, you stepping on my Versace. And the other brother said, you don't even know how to spell Versace. V-O-Sachi.
Oh, my God. That's awesome. Kumail Nanjiani is 45 years old. I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation. My apologies on that. Lily Allen, actress, is 38 years old today. Lou Gramm from Foreigner, he was the lead singer, is 73 today. Dr. Spock was born on this day. Not that Dr. Spock, not the Star Trek guy, but Benjamin Spock was born on this day in 1903, who was, you talk about way ahead of his time in terms of some of the stuff he was doing, you know, with children and whatnot. Just a brilliant scientist and doctor. A.J. Dillon, your Packer, is 25. Big man, big running back for them. Kyle Busch, NASCAR, 38 years old today. Pat McAfee, who's really become just an unbelievable sensation through his show, streaming, and also on game day on ESPN. He is 36 years old today. That guy, man, did he figure it out? And Jamal Wilkes, Silk Wilkes, former Laker, was a guy who had a really good NBA career, played in college under John Madden at UCLA. He is 70 years young today. All right, what do you got, Gunner?
Let's see. You got Bianca Jagger, the wife of Mick Jagger, 78 today.
Okay.
James Dyson, the inventor of the Dyson vacuum cleaner.
I have
76 today. I do too.
Yep.
76 today. Catherine the Great was born in 1729 on this day.
Okay.
She was the Empress of Russia and for almost 35 years, and she was the country's longest ruling female leader ever.
No kidding.
History of that country. Yep.
Did not know.
Big Boss Man, wrestler. 41, unfortunately passed away in 2004.
Yeah, like a lot of those guys.
Yeah. Hedda Hopper. You remember Hedda Harper? The name Hedda Harper?
Yeah.
Hopper.
She was a gossip columnist.
Yes. Actress and gossip columnist with birthdays today. Joanne Flug, the actress. 83 today. Roscoe Lee Brown, who's got deep voice, great actor.
Oh, that guy. He's very sophisticated.
Yes. You know, he talks with a slight British accent, but very well spoken.
Was he a South Jersey or Philly guy, I think?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay.
Jenna Vanoy from the show Blossom is 46. David Suchich from Death of the Nile and the Perfect Murder, 77. Tremaine Edmonds, who got traded to the Bears or signed with the Bears, is 25. Wide receiver Elijah Mitchell is 25. Former offensive line great Russ Graham, who played for the old Washington Redskins, 64.
Yep.
And baseball player Gates Brown, who played his entire career in Detroit, was born on this day in 1939.
Wow. All right. Good. Good list there. All right. Let's hit a couple movies. Iron Man, 2008, which spawned a lot of sequels for sure. But Robert Downey Jr., the star of that. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 from 2014. I used to take my son to all the Spider-Mans when he was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
We go to see all those. Austin Powers, I believe the first one, 97.
International Man of Mystery.
Was that I think that was the first
I think it
one.
was the first one, yeah.
And then there were at least two after that. Breakdown, which wasn't a bad movie. It was Kurt Russell. Not bad. It's okay. Not great. Anything else?
Maid of Honor, a comedy movie, came out in 2008. And X2 came out in 2003. That was the sequel to the original X-Men movie that came out in 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one came out in 2003. Notice a lot of these superhero movies come out in the month of May.
Well, yeah. What is that? What's the point of that? To have a summer blockbuster just to get ahead of it?
Yeah. Not only that, but because it's the greatest month of the year.
That's right. I forgot. They consult with you and Barrett. Yes, this is a big month.
You just walked right into it.
You're getting close to your big day. That's for sure. So that's all I got movies wise.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, I mean, we talked about off the show. There's a lot going on in Philadelphia sports. Think about this for a minute, Derek.
Yep.
You got Bryce Harper returning.
Yep.
You could have Joel Embiid win an MVP tonight.
Yep.
The Sixers win in Boston without Joel Embiid.
Yep.
The Eagles are coming off a draft that many think was the best in football after being in a Super Bowl last year. So as much as we have both been through some lean years in Philadelphia sports where there wasn't a lot to talk about, there's a lot to talk about. And we're very lucky to be in this time. Other than the Flyers, I mean, everybody's kind of pulling their weight here.
Well, the Flyers are moving in a new direction. So, I mean, nobody's talking about them because they're so disgusted with the Flyers. I love the look on your face when I said that.
They're moving in a direction. I don't know if it's the right direction, but they're in a direction. Yes.
I didn't say better. I just said different direction.
Yep.
That's all I said. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man.
Yeah. But we are fortunate, man. And it would be pretty cool if Embiid can finally get the MVP. At least he could put it behind him, and not have to deal with it anymore. That question, that would be nice. What would be even bigger? By the way, congratulations, Tyler. Your son's birthday is today. That's awesome. Happy birthday to your little man. Love to hear that. But at least he could put it behind him if that's the case. The thing he'd most want to put behind him is winning a championship and not have to answer that question. But that would be a big thing for Joel Embiid if he could get that. And then, look, all eyes are going to be peeled to tonight, late night in LA, seeing what Harper does. We're going to be all over that. How quickly he comes back from this thing.
So he will be in the lineup tonight.
Yes.
Has the batting order hasn't come out yet? Okay.
No. I would, if I'm guessing, and he keeps Stott at 1, and I mean in the leadoff spot, Harper hits third. He would go Stott, Turner, Harper, Castellanos, Schwarber.
Ooh,
this is a nice lineup.
Marsh,
probably go Bo Marsh if he wants to break up the lefty, right?
Okay.
Then Sosa. I think is that 9?
Jeez.
Real Muto would probably be ahead of Marsh and yeah. But anyway, that's a good lineup. You know what? John's right. So these guys were all trying to get me last night.
What's that?
If we get a certain amount of likes today to do the gritty.
Right.
So why don't we do this? Let's set a number for tomorrow, Derek. If we get the number, I will do a gritty. I will record it and I will send it to you guys. For I guess that would be for Thursday show because tomorrow's Wednesday. Okay. So what number do we have to get to tomorrow in terms of likes?
Well, you know what? Considering that you were a good enough sport to do it, and we keep bringing it up periodically, you got to set the bar high. Nobody, you shouldn't have to do it for anything less. So if we get 300 likes, let's say 300.
All right, people, you heard Gunner.
300.
We get 300 likes tomorrow. If we get there, and Tone will keep track of this as he does. I will do a gritty tomorrow night. I will record it for Thursday's show. How about that? So if we get 300
will your daughter record it for you?
Someone's going to have to. God knows I can't. If I'm trying to do that thing, do the gritty while I'm holding a phone, it'll be even bad, worse than it is already, and it's going to be bad already. All right.
Man.
So it's Barrett's back tomorrow. EJ Smith tomorrow. I want to thank Tone DeShields producing the program as always. Tone, appreciate you, man. Thanks to everybody in the chat section. You guys are always the best. Everybody streaming, everybody watching as always. Derek, it was fun.
Likewise, my brother.
Yeah, looking forward to tomorrow. Don't go anywhere. National Football Show with Dan Cilio. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out. We appreciate it.
Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.